Monday, June 3rd, 2024 at 3:30 p.m. So Janelle, could you please take roll call?
Carlson,
Here.
Bertle. Here. And Aaron's.
Here.
Orozco is excused.
Okey dokey. Could I, sorry, has everybody looked at the agenda? And, if so, any comments? Edits, anything? Okay, could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We don't have, yeah, we do. No, one, do we? Yeah, okay, good. Okay, and then as to the minutes from the May 6th, 2024 regular monthly meeting, are there any edits to that, to those minutes? I do want to make one edit on line 16, Janelle. It says Housen eventually pointed out that
Which
there's,
page?
I'm sorry, line 16 on page 4. Housen eventually pointed out that there was a time limit on public comment. If I said that, I didn't mean to, but if I
Oh,
did, I
okay.
did. Because I have not deliberately not put, at least not yet, put a time limit on there. I think that was all I had. Anybody else? Okay, can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Great, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okey-dokey. Okay, up next is. Okay, so the next one is comments, correspondence, and concerns from the public. So just raise your hand if you have a comment, concern, or do we have any correspondence, Janelle?
There's no correspondence, but Laurel Harf, who's on the Zoom, is raising her hand.
She's raising her hand. Okay, so Laurel, we'll get you in a sec. Is there anybody present that would like to make a comment or a concern? Okay, all right, Laurel, go for it.
If you could unmute yourself, there you go.
One is the Goki project. They've removed a significant amount of bluff below those condos above. And I'm wondering if the builder or the village is going to put fencing in place up there to protect anyone that might go to the edge of the bluff up by the condos. The next comment I have is regarding what's on the agenda as far as the e-bikes go. And I know this is a project that's been put on the agenda by the Ephraim Airport, but I'm wondering, does the village really want to get into the business of renting e-bikes? And then also there's the concern about the liability to Sister Bay because they have to be maintained. And I think that our maintenance crew, they know how to maintain trucks, but I don't know if they know how to maintain electric e-bikes. And we're taking on a lot of responsibility when people are going to be tooling around in the village on those. And then my other question is, where would these e-bikes be placed on the pads that were illustrated in the pictures? And then what's the cost of the electrical to the village to have to run it there? So I think also the last thing is, I don't know that we want to place any more work on our maintenance crew because our maintenance people seem to be kind of overworked and understaffed at the present time. And I think this is something that we should really reconsider not doing. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, so we can, and as you know, the e-bikes are on the agenda. Well, anyone else? So we're going to close comments and concerns from the public? No? All good?
Yep. We're good.
Okay, so discussion items and action items. First one is 6A, which is final plans for facilities maintenance building.
Okay, so you have a schematic of the plans in there. The only thing that is different is, the Skylar did meet with Eric and they are able to reduce the asphalt that's shown in the plan by 20 feet all the way around the building, so it'll be a little less asphalt that's shown. Other than that, the plans are, as we have discussed, they had the colors that we've discussed. And if we're okay with this, we'd like to see this forwarded to the board for acceptance, so it can go out for bid.
I had a question about the items that the village, needs to purchase.
Sure.
So, because I don't have a lot of background on it. Is that something that would need to be added to the 2025 budget? Is it in the $4.1 million budget? And there were a couple items in there that I just wanted some clarification on. So if you could answer those two questions, and then I wanted some clarification.
So they'd be part of that $4 million budget.
Okay,
And the reason why they broke it out is it's less expensive for us to order it directly.
Yeah.
Than to have the contractor do it and then have that contractor price added onto it.
got it. Okay, all right. So my question, because I have zero expertise in this area, is I'm assuming these are, most of this is items we don't currently own, right? Or are we replacing something?
For the most part, it's stuff we do not own. However, I'll put a caveat in there, like the furniture.
Yeah.
There is,
Yeah,
we have furniture, it's old, beat up. They're saying you should really get new stuff.
okay,
Office rack storage, that'd be new. The gantry crane.
that's what I wondered about.
Yeah, so when the committee had discussed it, we talked about the different type of cranes or lifts, and the decision was to go with the less costly alternative, which was the gantry crane,
Okay,
and the trolley and the hoist, things like that.
what do we use that for? I know this is stupid, but I don't know.
Yeah, so they get a lot of very heavy things at the parks a lot of times.
Okay,
It's mostly gonna be used for our mower maintenance, so we need a capacity to lift up the mowers to get underneath to unfasten the blades from the decks. And
okay,
to clean out all the gunk that the mower attracts throughout the week.
okay,
Right now, we're currently using kind of a jury rig system. To do our mower maintenance, this would be a more professional style of actually getting the mowers lifted up safely and more efficiently.
gotcha. How many mowers do we have?
We currently have 3.
Okay, how old are they?
Our oldest is a 2020, we just got a brand new 2024 this year, and we have a 2022.
Okay, so they're in decent shape.
and
Okay,
we had also talked about lifting stuff, how it's easier on the crew to have a crane that lifts it instead of them having to unload everything manually.
This
Okay.
will give us a capacity to lift heavy items out of truck beds as well. It can be a rolling system that it can be rolled into place to
Mhm.
assist in lifting items onto trucks and off the trucks. If a forklift cannot get to it conveniently.
okay. I did look it up and I knew it could be wheeled around, that much I knew. So the beam trolley and the chain hoist are all part of that?
They are all sold separately, but yes, they're
Oh.
all in conjunction with each other, correct?
Okay. So how is that different, bear with me, from an upright frame?
An upright.
Or maybe it isn't different. This is a double scissor lift upright frame at $17,000.
Okay, that's a different item. So
That's a-
Right, I know, I'm just wondering, oh, sorry,
The
That's
upright is it's an in-floor system to lift, vehicles for vehicle maintenance.
okay,
And with that one, Louise, they had originally looked at an in-floor unit where you didn't have to lift, you could go under the vehicle, so to speak, and work on it.
Yeah.
And it was just cost prohibitive. So
okay.
that was the less expensive alternative for that, on that item.
So this lifts it up instead of having a pit underneath what you're.
Correct, no pit, so, and we wanted to utilize as much floor space as we can, so we can actually roll over the top of this one, and still utilize the parking area without it,
Okay,
taking up too much room.
okay. And how many vehicles would we use, how many vehicles would we be maintaining in using that?
This could lift everything but the 1 tons, so we currently have 2 1 tons. We currently will have 2 1/4 tons and I don't know what a Ranger is. But it could also lift other vehicles like our terrain cutter, our trackless.
Okay,
I don't think I put the tractor on there, but
so we're looking at budgeting for 2025 in terms of maintenance. If it's I mean, that's something to think about when we're, right? Because if we were outsourcing maintenance before, I think, right? We took it
Our,
someplace?
our old DPW had a vision of bringing most of the maintenance, vehicle maintenance in-house. So
Right.
that process has started. And this is, this is the development of that process.
Okay,
We have been doing as much as possible in-house.
so our guys have the expertise and we have the equipment, because I think when you fix anything now, you need a computer. Again, I don't know.
Well, this is more of the routine fluids and
Oh,
everything like
So like oil
that.
change and that kind of stuff?
Oil changes, that kind of stuff, everything.
With the maintenance, like Louise was saying with computers and stuff, you still run them down to Sturgeon Bay or wherever for that. Wherever their most is.
Yeah, most of the stuff is still on. board.
So it's all warranted. All right, so that's not a cost anyway. Okay. Okay, so, the 67,000 this is what we're, the group of, equipment that we're talking about is in the 4-1, right?
Yep,
Okay, but we haven't purchased anything yet.
that's right.
Does anybody have any questions about this?
Don't be mad, Julie.
Okay.
You're gonna change something?
I want to point something out that I did not see before. If you look on, the schematic of page 19,
I'm so sorry. Sorry.
Okay,
and if you look in the office area, the bottom left corner, and the vestibule has the front door, obviously, and then it has 3 windows on the side that would be facing Autumn Court.
okay,
So very light, a lot of light coming in the vestibule. And then we have that person's office, there's a sliding window that you can see into the vestibule, but there is no window. I mean, that's it,
well, there's no window in their office.
in their office.
Oh, yeah.
So I was wondering if Mike could put a window in that office. And instead of the 3-paned window in the vestibule, cut it down to 2.
You end up having to make the main office is 3 windows down to 2 for symmetry. Otherwise it'd be a weird 2, 1, 3.
I know it's gonna be weird, but
Okay.
it's not and I think that's important.
No, otherwise that's more like closet to eat. This is a very small office.
Very
The lower
small.
right in that office, is that a closet? What is that?
No, there's no closet in there.
So what's Julie, what's this?
Could just be a printer or a desk or something.
It's marked as
I'm
DA
not-
and it looks like it has walls. I wonder if that's like support
It
beams.
might be a
Oh.
beam or
Oh.
like maybe some type of HVAC.
But it's not
thing in there.
floor space, okay.
No,
Okay. All right.
I mean, they could
Well,
even
then you
take
couldn't
the
put a window there,
vestibule.
that may be why there is no window there, I don't know, but I'll ask Mike
Okay,
to see if he can add something in there to make sure we get some light and natural air.
I mean, even if he has to take the vestibule down to 1 window.
Sure.
I don't think that's as important,
I agree.
whatever would look the most appealing, even though none of us will see it from Autumn Court.
Any other concerns on the plan?
I'm scrolling to see if I have any other marks.
so the process then is that this goes to board, and then it goes out to bid.
Right, if the board accepts it, then we'll advertise it for bid.
So what do we think timing wise?
So if you put it out for bid, you give about a month to allow people to bid on it. That takes you to the end of July. And then it comes back to this committee, and this committee decides who they're gonna go with. Now, I did talk to Mike and I said we would prefer, I said we would prefer an RFP to a bid. Because bid by law, you have to take the cheapest. RFP means you can also look at things like quality, experience and some things like that. So, that would come back to this committee. And they would have to make a recommendation to the board on which company is gonna actually build it. And then the board has the final say, and then we award the contract. And then they have to get it in their schedule and build over winter. And when I talked to Mike, he said realistically, and this is much longer than I think people wanted to hear, but he said realistically, you're looking at moving in there in May. Which is terrible timing for us. Terrible timing for Eric's crew, because that's when they're in full swing for summer, but that's what it is.
But I think there was a chance that the storage building could get moved and set up first. Or would it be too difficult to move stuff in there because the main building is active construction?
Dry storage,
Yeah, if we
or
have
cold storage,
the,
I mean.
if we have the concrete done and everything, if we're far enough along, we could.
That would at least help Eric out some.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, can I read back to you what I got? That the Parks Property and Streets Committee recommends that the village board approve the plans for the new parks maintenance building that were included in the digital packets for this meeting as presented but amended, and authorize that project to be, do you want it to be let for bids, Julie, in as timely a fashion as possible?
No, they
Or-
just recommend it to the board for approval.
Okay, as presented, okay. And you want to mention the dollar amount?
No, that's all budgeted and.
Okay,
we
you
don't
want to
find-
mention the village equipment list?
No, that's in the packet.
Yeah, that's there.
Okay,
No,
so leave that out, okay. So then just as presented,
Yes,
With the two changes things had.
yeah,
yeah, she mentioned an amended.
okay, 6B, continued discussion about the electric bike program. Do we have the individuals from, Ephraim with us today?
Is anybody here to talk about the bike program? They were sent a copy of it.
Okay, so here's my question. I know that they aren't here. So a couple of questions. And we've discussed the liability issue, but my other question actually is, looking at the second packet, the second piece of material they included in the packets, and that is, am I right that they were talking about one bike or
Six.
multiple?
Six.
Okay, so when you, so I'm wrong.
Takes
So-
up 14 feet.
Yeah, so I'm looking at, and also, when I'm looking at it, it looks like they recommend not just like the platform that it's on, but also, sorry, my laptop isn't wanting to come up. There's like 18 inches or something, like a little 18-inch sort of pad behind it,
48-inch, but
a
yeah,
40-inch
yeah,
pad behind
68
it.
by 48, or 68 for the bike plus 48 for a pad behind it is what they recommend, 28 inches wide.
Yeah,
It's page 40.
it's big. I mean, it seems big, but we hadn't discussed location or anything, am I right?
Correct. I mean, I think we had maybe said maybe we could go at Gateway or just spitballing things, but no real discussion, no detailed discussion
Mhm.
and no decision whatsoever. If it happened, where it would go.
I just think this is, especially with, the maintenance and the liability. Although as a caveat, I would like to know how the city of Madison does it, because they have them everywhere. And, do they have, specific people on their crew that just take care of e-bikes all day, because there's, I don't know how many, but lots.
I mean, it's
I just
probably-
think that this might be better for somebody who wants to be in that business.
Yeah, my understanding of what other cities does, and I don't know about Madison in particular, is that it's actually, they contract with a private entity that runs the program for them.
Yeah.
And, the benefit to the private entity is, of course, the profit. I think the Ephraim Airport people are pitching it as, hey, we'll work with you and split the profits, but that's us getting into the e-bike business, and with all of our many priorities, that doesn't seem like a great idea for something that's not in our area of expertise.
Well, I think the other intent was that they wanted multiple municipalities to participate in order, because that would make it far more palatable for a community investment fund grant.
I mean, I think most people would think that this is a great idea, and maybe it'll spark something with somebody who may want to create a business out of it and talk to municipalities and, because I do think it's a great thing, but I do think also that they need to be more places.
Well, are they partnering with Fish Creek now?
They were checking into it, so they did reach out to Fish Creek and they said that it looked like they were interested. I did not follow up with Travis to see what they did with it. I
Yeah,
wasn't even sure we were gonna go down.
because at one point they said they didn't want to because Fish Creek already had a bicycle rental place,
Oh,
but it's closer. So one way or the other, I really think that we should talk to them. Be good if they could come here and talk to us.
the bike people come back?
Or we can
The again, I mean, this is the third time it's on our agenda. I'm kind of,
get us.
Or like,
Correct. They were here the first time. They didn't come the second time and they're not here this time. So
I'm
do
kinda
I have a
over it.
motion?
I'm not sure they would necessarily tell us anything that we don't know because they've answered the questions and it would still be
Mhm.
a burden for the village to have to take on.
So we own the 6, we operate the 6, we maintain the 6. And we have to find pretty fair amount of space to put them. They're battery operated lithium, but I worry about functionality sometimes, you know?
you know, if the thought is this would be really good for a business to pursue, what we can do is make sure our codes are current to allow something like this. So that if somebody does want to pursue it, it's an easier path for them.
Our codes.
I
allow
don't
it right now?
disagree with you,
I'd have to check.
but we're having 2 moratoriums coming up because staff is a little stretched. Not a priority, Julie.
I definitely agree with that.
But you're talking about a private business, not the village.
The plan commission going over the zoning code and
Oh, the
creating
code.
new code.
But there could be something there now, we don't know, maybe. Interesting to see.
Yeah, I know there's something on, the electric vehicles, but I don't think it includes bikes.
Okay,
So you probably want a motion to,
I'll make a motion to deny the request at this time.
Second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No one. Okay, so have you got that motion, okay? Okey dokey. I'm curious to see if anybody in the village could, if there's some kind of path to, no pun intended, but for someone to do something like that, that would be great. Traffic study proposal for Mill West and 42.
okay, so I did reach out, to get information on what it would cost to actually study that intersection, and come up with some recommendations. As you can see, the quote in the package is, $9,618. What I originally did is I reached out to Skylar, he recommended this guy, and then come to find out this man has done other work for us, so he's very familiar, he's done a lot of the counts here. So we just have to decide if we're gonna pursue this or not.
I make a motion to deny or to not do a traffic study for $9,600 at this time.
Second.
Before we vote, I do have a question. And this is about the striping on Mill, and I know you and I talked about this, Julie, and Denise and I chatted, so I went out and measured the width. And Mill Road on the west side, like all of our roads, are different widths at different places. So I went to a few different places, but I'm talking about striping and putting in a left-hand turn lane. So we need 12 feet for each turn lane, I think. Sorry, for each lane.
You should have 12 feet, yeah.
You should. Well, and that road should be maybe a little wider anyway,
Yeah.
but, so we have 30, I think anywhere from 33 to 34 feet. So are we at all comfortable with thinking about putting a left-hand turn lane in there?
So there was a discussion on that maybe 3 months ago about a
Right.
left-hand turn lane and it just wasn't feasible to have reasonable sized lanes and a left-hand dedicated turn lane.
Well, I think, and Denise mentioned that, and I think it was because at that point, you thought it was the committee. Thought they were all gonna be about 10 feet wide. And I think since the construction, I mean, I measured it on the my way over here. And you know, everybody measures something and you get 3 people and you get 3 different measurements, but they're. Yes, you do. Well, then how is it, wait a second, how is it that Ken Church measures it?
Well,
And,
Julie or somebody measured it before the road was
okay,
repaved.
The engineer did, the engineer is
Okay.
the one who said, and so I'm not sure, I think they're just looking at asphalt bed, you know, not curbing when they do that.
I didn't measure the curve.
And then Ken measured it, and that was 30 feet when the engineer did it, okay?
Mhm.
And then Ken did it after the asphalt was laid,
Yep.
and it was 33.
And I measured it today and it was like 33.5, maybe because it was raining.
Asphalt expands on
It
that.
expands, it expands when it rains.
So you
I mean,
have,
there we have it.
so you have
so-
11 feet per lane then, basically.
I mean,
Right,
it's
so
just,
we,
we know,
from the original, we gained a foot per lane.
or let's say we don't put, I mean, maybe this is stupid, but we don't put a left-hand turn lane in, but at least some kind of a stripe so that the people that are taking a right as they're coming west know to frickin' move over and take their right and let the other people, you know what I mean? Because otherwise you got somebody smack in the middle of that lane, taking a right.
And
That,
that's what Dick Burris had said, I think, at our board meeting, right?
so if it's not an official left-hand turn lane, then if nothing else, so we can at least let the people that because there's room, especially because on this, I mean, truly, you know, obviously the curb, the curb curves. So if we could do that, just to try to
So when-
avoid.
so when you're on Mill West and you're
Mhm.
facing the highway.
Mhm. Mhm.
the
You have a
bus-
center lane,
Okay,
right? And then you
You'd still have 3 lanes,
still have 3 lanes, yeah. You would.
but it's now a designated
So it's,
right-hand turn, not a,
in other words, it tells somebody who's turning right to get over.
okay, so you only have 2 lanes that are headed east, right?
Correct.
So one would be right turn only,
yes.
straight or right turn only?
Right,
think straight would go with left.
no, straight,
Yeah, straight should go with left.
yeah, straight goes left, yeah,
That'll take.
and then you have right turn.
So we'd still be less than the standard 12 foot for a lane. though.
Yeah, you would, no matter what, it's 33 feet wide, 33 and a half, yes.
And so then you have the potential of folks turning off of 57 on the mill. You got somebody waiting to turn right, someone in the center, and their truck or long vehicle
I got ya.
can't make that turn without going up on the sidewalk or clipping the person.
So, but what if the right hand, okay, you're going west, sorry, you're going east now on Mill Road. Right, going east, you're going towards the fire station. You're on Mill Road, you're going towards 42, but you're still on Mill Road, you haven't taken a right yet and you haven't gone straight. If we made a right-hand turn lane there and made that one a little narrower, no one's gonna turn into it. Right, because it's the far right lane. I don't- Or we don't do anything, because what this traffic study would do, and I agree with you, Denise. Traffic study is gonna tell us that diverting traffic up to the worst intersection we have in the village is a stupid idea. To pay somebody 10 grand to tell us something we already know is pretty dumb. So we shouldn't do that. Yes. Denise? I'm not gonna have to get off.
Do you have
the gavel.
anything to add, Chief Peck?
Oh, that's a good idea. I didn't even see you back
You
there.
wanna talk about going west from the east side, or do you wanna talk about going east from the west side?
Anything, anything you would like to comment on?
That whole intersection is a problem, and it's gonna get worse whether you're coming from the east or the west. I agree with you. Routing them up Hellbe's is not a good idea.
Right.
I think to try to clear any kind of bottleneck, you're gonna have to put a right turn lane. Make the center lane straight and left turn, make the right turn lane narrow, make your other 2 lanes full width. Or just short of full width. I don't know how else you're gonna clear that intersection. And then you can
Will we
flip
do
it
that
around,
or nothing?
We can flip it around, have the same discussion on the east going west.
I think do nothing, you don't have the narrower lanes
Right.
and you wait a little longer.
Right,
Yeah, you wait until there's pedestrians that stop traffic, so.
100%.
And that happens all
the time.
No,
day.
it totally does. It's actually one of
Right.
the easier places to take a left because thank God for the pedestrians.
Right.
And fortunately, no one's been
Yeah,
hit.
and I've said this before, the village board for reporting, you know, we got a traffic problem. We don't have a traffic problem. We have a pedestrian problem. Couple of years, we did traffic control for plein air for the week. And when we quit controlling traffic and started controlling pedestrians, traffic cleared immediately.
Yeah, that's true. He was good that day. We just need a reserve. I'm kidding.
But it's that all day long, that trickle of pedestrians, and they have to stop and let them through.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, it's expensive to stripe it and then we made a mistake and we
Put down
tried.
temporary stripes, put down tape. They make a reflective temporary tape you can put down, like you see in construction zone, put it down, try it for 2 weeks and see what happens.
I think we're gonna need some signage out there too, because people aren't gonna see it.
They won't.
I say we just let it be. I mean,
Yeah,
it,
it's,
it doesn't, we know how busy we are. In July and August, June's less, you know, September's less, or whatever. It's just one of those many, many things. Because we are a destination that we have to deal with. And
Right.
just like Dick Burris said at the board meeting a couple of weeks ago. You know, I sat there for whatever it was, 2.5 minutes, not the end of the world.
Right, everybody
5 hours a day. for 10
loses their sense of time when they're waiting.
But, and if the post office is really gonna move, that will alleviate some of it.
It will, quite a bit. Okay. When's it getting striped anyway, however it gets striped?
It wouldn't be striped. We don't stripe most village streets. They'll like do fog lines sometimes around the outside,
Oh,
but we don't typically stripe center. And we did talk to Skylar about that, and Skylar said, yeah, in a village, you typically don't stripe the center line.
It's just an
I know,
added
that's-
maintenance cost. It's
but
not-
I just, what,
Yeah.
I don't even remember if the old one was striped because it was so
No.
old. I just figured the stripes faded away.
No. Most 25 mile an hour, in village roads aren't striped.
Okay.
There's no need.
It'll be interesting to watch and see, maybe it just happens on its own.
Yeah.
And it might because it's fresh and new.
Right.
And
Okay,
it feels wider.
Maybe we can just watch it and revisit it in like 6 months. If we hear of an issue, put it back on for further discussion.
so would you stand out there one Saturday? Take a look.
Yeah, with all my extra time, I'm
I
gonna do
mean,
that.
everything that I've observed, it's the same old run.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be down there a lot
Yeah.
on Saturdays and stuff and watch, and so, we'll take a look, but
I
we
think
also
if
put,
we
I
put
mean,
something new there, we're just gonna confuse them,
I got you.
and it's just, I say we just let it ride.
Okay.
So
Well, if we're not
that-
gonna stripe it, that's no expense, and if it turns out to be kind of a mess, then I guess we come back and talk about it again.
So we had an open motion in a second.
We
And
did,
then some
we
extended
did.
discussion.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry. Um, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, don't say we didn't try. Okay. So next up is, what is next up? Let's see. The pickleball people. So the request is that the pickleball people who will pay for it would like to have it, have the lines restriped using grit in the stripes when it was done before, and I think that was like 2019 or something, it was a while back. And they want permission to repaint the lines using grit paint.
Any downside of allowing them to do it?
I'm glad they're doing it. I think it makes for a better game. It makes for a better park, right? When you have functional courts.
Does it hurt-
Reduces injuries.
Does it hurt the tennis game, tennis courts, tennis play, tennis anything?
I asked, somebody in the office and they said no, they said they didn't see why that would affect tennis, so.
Okay,
Because it, well, and that's. That's kind of what I'm wondering. I don't play either.
Yeah.
I mean, they would know, I suppose, but I always thought tennis lines.
You know who I
were
would
grit,
ask
had grit as well, so.
is Mike Laskowitz. He's a big tennis player. And he has come to talk to the village board in the past about some conflicts with pickleball and tennis. I just don't wanna, it sounds very simple, and as we all know, some of the
Yeah.
simplest decisions that we make become very large unintended consequences.
How about if we,
We can approve it as long as
contingent on finding out what, make sure it's okay with,
tennis
it doesn't affect the tennis play.
Right,
Yeah.
how long does it take to do? Because then everybody would need to be informed, give them a little bit of notice that they're gonna be closed for a period of time. Like, how long does it take to do?
Right, I mean, they can't just go and do it, they'd have to schedule it. with
Yeah,
the
it shouldn't take
village.
long.
Yeah, I think it was like a day to have it dry before you could play.
When they were installed, that's about what it took, but it wasn't the same kind of thing. Okay, so we'll get his input or a tennis player's input, and then we can put some sort of a makeshift sign up there on the door, so people know. Give them a heads up,
Yeah,
okay?
so do we want,
Do we need a motion?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll move that the pickleball folks, have permission to repaint the lines using grit paint. As long as, we'll pass that motion with input from a tennis player that won't affect their play. And also, knowing that we're gonna put up some signage to give people a heads up that it's happening.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, oh, this is a disabled parking stall, that was requested by, CHOP, thank you. So maybe why Chris is here, possibly, and Chris. So we should have because I know that we've got an aerial view of it, but I don't know that we've talked about where to put it. The disabled parking spot. The disabled entrance for CHOP is where you see that car, I think it is. It's on the side, right? Right next to your building on,
Yes.
so it's right by where that car or truck is. On Mill Road.
I know when we discussed Mill Road previously, very briefly, if I remember right, we talked about putting it directly across the street from there,
Mhm,
where it was.
mhm.
You know, part of that area is no parking until you get like in front of 2340.
Yeah, right before their parking lot.
Yeah, because that last spot in front of Glow is the last spot before 57.
Mhm, mhm.
So I thought that was the ask, is that last spot get converted to.
It would be the most logical and it's the easiest to get in and out of. If you have, Chris,
Oh, but actually, we were the one who asked for that too.
Right.
I had a conversation with Chris, the reason for removing those on the south side of the mill was for health, safety, life safety, to make sure the trucks get through there.
right,
I just talked to Chris, we're proposing, adding some of those spots back on that side, but just losing 2 or 3 as closest to the intersection on the south side, instead of removing all 5. So that way you would keep the handicap spot on that side of the street, not at putting the other side, the handicap folks are getting out that entrance, Luis, as you said, is wherever that truck is.
yeah,
My concern with that is, I mean, that was discussed heavily by the committee. Eric's crew went out there, ground off, repainted.
yeah, I think it's been ground out, right?
And now to have them go back, I mean,
No,
yeah,
we went through all that conversation, all of that effort came to a determination, the crew did the work.
that was a couple months.
Already got the curb yellow too, we'd have to get the yellow off the curb.
What if we propose to do that for you? We'll take care of that to get the parking back. We'll repaint the handicap signs on the stalls. Just put it back,
Because
it accomplishes the goal of health, safety or life safety, or removing those 2 to 3 stalls in front, close to the intersection. The loading zone also, it said, the sign is pretty confusing. It says no parking. Loading zone, I think 8 AM to 5 PM. So it's not, I'm not sure, does that mean when folks park there, are they able to park there after 5 p.m. or does that become no parking? I'm not really sure on the signage on that. I would think it could be parking, but
Then it's no parking, but we had to keep the loading, unloading sign up there. So,
absolutely, that would block the intersection, right?
I would say I'm there every night, and I think it's actually becoming more dangerous because people aren't listening and looking at the yellow strip and they're parking there. And when they walk in, if I do see them parking there, I say, unfortunately, that's no parking. But sometimes it's not even people staying or coming into the restaurant. So there's still people parking all along that yellow every night. And I don't know why. It's just like yellow means caution and they're parking on it and I don't understand why they don't get it. I feel like there's some confusion still with, unless we have signs, people are still parking there and I try to control it as much as possible.
I'll get my ticket on.
So we had 5 there, and what do we have now?
There's no parking on that side at all.
Yeah, so
Other than
so a little bit of history, Louise, is, so there was a lot of requests and some back and forth with Mr. Hecht about, you know,
Remember all
the
that.
need.
Uh-huh.
And the request boiled down to an ask for all the way from 57 to Claflin. But what the committee compromised on is, I think, 57 to the library, and we left some spots between the current Parks Maintenance Building and Claflin Lane.
Was it both sides?
Well,
No, the
there
original.
was discussion that had both sides and part, but then I believe the compromise, and I'm speaking for Chris a little bit.
Right, because I think
is-
I
is-
voted no, because I wanted to do the original.
We did ask for one side.
So Chris, chime in here, what do you think? I mean, I think the village sounds like the village,
Yeah.
they did what you wanted.
The village did do what we asked for, right? There was a lot of discussion, which side, north side, south side. So we have two issues there. One is, we need to be able to control the intersection, right? So there's at least 1,000 emergency vehicles that pass through that intersection every year between the ambulance and the fire truck. Right, they're actually doing more than 1,000 calls with the ambulances, but if you discount what they go out the back for, it's about 1,000 between the two of us that go through that intersection. Our two issues are, we need to be able to control the intersection, which means I need the fire truck and the ambulance to be able to be seen from the highway in order to control the intersection, right? If I can't get to where I can be seen, the traffic will keep going on the highway and people can't get out on the road, right? Does that make sense? And then the second issue is the width, right? It is narrow, there's no doubt, and you know, I've had conversations with Jared and talked about the width, and he said, yeah, it's narrow. It is a typical small village street, right? So based on the traffic flow and the parking that he said it's going to feel narrow, and you know, the parking, the stalls are straight narrow. So frequently you have vehicles that are parked over with straight width.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of the beat, is that if you're gonna draw a line at whatever they are, 7 feet, when the typical is 8 feet, you're going to have that, right? So those are our two issues. I appreciate the ability to come and talk to you. I appreciate Chris's willingness to discuss and Chop's willingness to discuss. I understand where they're at. Our other issue is this is a long-term problem, right? If the village and you're talking about building a new maintenance shop, whatever happens on that lot, the current old fire station lot, be it a parking lot or a post office or a combination of both, you're going to pass a lot more vehicles through that intersection, right? We're gonna make a bad problem worse. I agree that something needs to happen to that lot. We need more parking. Maybe we come to some type of a compromise. I understand it's been very painful for them. I understand people are ignoring it anyway. Maybe we do some kind of a compromise, give them back a few spots, but when whatever happens to the fire station lot and the traffic increases, maybe it is a hard no. Maybe there is, if we're gonna gain 150 spots at the old fire station, maybe there is no parking on Mill Road from the old fire station to Iowa, because we're gonna gain 150 spots, but we're gonna gain 500 vehicles through that intersection every day, which I don't think is unrealistic. Our position has been, you know what our issue is, we are willing to have a conversation that somehow is palatable to us, palatable to them, and works for the village. And I don't know what that is, right? If you wanna pay $7,000 for a traffic study, do it on the east side of the road. Because that's where our public safety problem is. And yes, Chris and I have had multiple conversations. I've had conversations with Jared about different configurations. I understand it, and we very much appreciate that it's all yellow now. There is no parking, and it has made life better for both ends of the building. But I also understand what it's done for them. And, you know, if there is some kind of compromise, we'd be more than willing to sit before the village board and or this committee and talk about it, the pros and the cons.
So what's on the table now is to stay with what we've removed and to put a handicap spot in front of Glow, you know, just next to that, to their parking lot.
And I'll just give you my take as a 35-year paramedic is that's a recipe for disaster to have somebody parking, handicap parking spot across the street from where they're trying to go. Because they're gonna try to negotiate, they're not gonna go down to the corner to the ramp, cross the road, up the ramp and back again, they're gonna try to go across. And I'm just, that's the paramedic in me. The fire chief in me says they can park across the street. But
Chris, what
I'm
about,
trying to be realistic.
Chris, what about if the last stall on Bay Shore Drive before,
Yep.
just south of Mill? What if that last stall was the handicap stall?
It is right now.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, that one is?
It is currently.
So there's two of them out there then?
Yeah, the parking stall closest to those, it was the four stalls closest to the intersection were off.
Okay,
We also have handicapped up, in that parking lot for the Door Hotel.
That's really what's helpful.
Yeah, but and they can't get down to the
Yeah.
restaurant though, because it's the
The
stairs.
stairs, there's no handicap.
Yeah.
So really.
Well, they go down the driveway, but
Today
that's
would
it.
just be 2340 just across the street, handicap.
And I'm not a paramedic, but I also thought where on that side of the street makes any sense. And to me, it didn't, because you have somebody not knowing what their challenges are, trying to stop traffic and cross the street, and that's just stupid to
So
me.
using a walker or a wheelchair is pretty dangerous. Yeah.
And again, when you look at our clientele of the village, there are a fair number of them that are handicapped.
Okay, so that would mean then that we,
And I don't mean to hijack your meeting. I don't know that this is the forum that we're gonna beta discussion.
this is, I think it is, I think that's what we want is
Okay.
to hear from you, Chris.
Okay.
So I can, you know, you pass by it and then you just don't, you don't even see it anymore. So I'm trying to remember exactly where the loading and unloading zone,
see where that black car is on the map, Denise?
Kind of in the shadow.
Joey's truck.
Yeah.
It's been told 100 times not to park there.
Jody's truck.
It's not just me that notices that.
That's like the loading zone
But how far?
from the handicap entrance?
No.
It goes all the way up to the driveway to the hotel.
Yeah.
It's 3 spots.
Okay, so that's what I was asking.
It's 3
Okay.
spots. I don't know, again, I'm trying to walk a fine line, right? So it is incredibly important that those loading zones remain loading zones, because we have had multiple times, where there's multiple vehicles parked across the road and you can't get through no matter what. And they have a right to do that, right? The truckers have a right to
Yep.
block a lane, and we can't take that away, so we need to give them. But could those spots after 4 o'clock convert to park? Non-handicap. Handicap close to the ramp at CHOP, and the loading zones convert to traditional parking after 4 o'clock or 5, whatever the number is. Maintains them for loading and unloading, so nobody blocks the road, and it gives back a couple spots to them. With the caveat that if it's still a problem, we may have to take them back.
Well, they already do that. They already turn into parking spots after 4.
Right,
that loading zone already does that.
Right.
Okay, it does say no parking, but the sign says no parking.
it's confusing, you're right.
Right,
And they park
it's,
there.
it's how do you interpret that, right?
Yeah.
Is it parking from after 4? I don't know.
Well, we could change the signage, couldn't we?
We could change.
Or change how it's interpreted, I don't know. No, only parking, public parking after 5 PM, loading zone before.
You could do a sign loading zone and then turns to handicap parking, but that might be confusing as well, because the loading zone is striped yellow.
Yeah.
But all in all, I really don't, our sign and our yellow, curb really haven't had much of an effect down there anyways. There's still parking in droves down there. Regardless of what we do, unless you put a designated handicap, you're probably gonna park there regardless of what we end up.
Well,
doing.
I propose that, some signs are created and put where it's striped yellow for the summer.
There are signs there.
No, on the road. So no one can pull into those spaces that are obviously yellow.
You mean like you'll see a concrete pad, post, sign, you gotta literally move it to park there?
Yeah, just a cement block, whatever.
That defeats the purpose then, because the idea is that as a ambulance or a fire truck is headed down the highway and they're in the wrong lane.
Oh, they have a place to pull.
Right.
The idea is to create that room for that eastbound car to get out of the way to let the fire truck go west in the eastbound lane.
Okay,
And
so,
if we plug them full of signage, now that we.
okay, so what if we don't put them in the middle of the so-called space? They're closer to the sidewalk. I mean, I think it's worth a shot, at least for, it's just the beginning of June. At least to give it a try for July and August to try to keep it open for the safety purposes.
Would we still be thinking about a handicap spot?
Yeah, I got off on this tangent first, and I'll wrap back around to that.
Well, I think we need a handicap spot on shop side,
Agreed.
and in retrospect. It's just an accident waiting to happen.
Okay, so all of your vendors, I presume like me, you don't change vendors a lot, so everybody knows that that's loading and.
Correct,
unloading.
yes.
And it has
But
gotten
he's,
better.
yes, but he's right, I've seen it to where they come at the same time and they pull in next to each other.
Yeah,
And it blocks the entire street.
yeah, they've been doing that forever.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Okay. So.
Just depends, especially if it's a holiday weekend.
If all your vendors know that, could we take one of those 3 spots? You still keep the loading and unloading. You create one, whichever one you think is appropriate, the farthest, the closest, the middle one, I don't know. And paint it handicap. And so it's like the handicap is inside the loading and unloading. Or does that become a problem then
During loading.
During the day, it would, yeah,
during the day?
sure, yeah, it would.
Could you put the spot like right in front of the unloading and loading, put that one stall back as a handicap?
that's what I'm thinking, like right at the door, because there's a dip that goes down, where vendors push their, like, from the street, push on where it comes down. If we had like those first 2 right there as handicap, that would make those 2 handicap, and then you'd have that break, and then it's the loading zone.
So of the original 5 that were there before the loading zone, you're proposing the 4th and 5th towards the loading zone be handicapped. The first 3 stay gone and then you leave the loading zone?
Yes.
How would that be, at least for now?
Yeah, I mean, that's really,
And
Hey.
still put up a sign that clearly says no parking.
Right.
Like right on the sidewalk. At the window.
Maybe it's just some heavy duty traffic cones for a little bit to train people and it's changed, because it probably allows people to.
Here we go.
Stuff. Yeah.
Well, these were all my drawings before, so I'll just continue on.
And Denise, the old Google Maps, you can see all the parking spots. I don't know if it's.
Yeah.
Maybe you're looking at that already.
Right,
Yes,
that's
I
kind of
did.
what I was,
I mean, Jody's truck is in the 5th one, right? Going.
Well,
is the
Right.
budget so bad?
The So you can see on the old Google Maps, the original 5 slots.
Right.
and then the-
I just I wanna draw it so we all agree.
Oh,
On this
so-
area.
Yeah, you can see the original
Yeah,
5
that's what's
slots.
right
and then
here.
the loading zone.
Yeah.
I just can't see in that picture, so I.
Oh, I can't.
Here's one that works.
And 'cause Jody's truck is in the 5th one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then you go into loading zone.
We've asked them nicely not to park.
Well,
Very nice.
This is in the updated one, there's no yellow.
well, there, you know what, it's, you can't see it, it's there.
Oh,
It's a terrible picture.
Okay. So. This is the first. Parking stall that's part of the loading zone. You had said, no, I drew that a little small.
Yeah.
So there's
one by
three
the
of them.
walkway, yeah. There's one by the walkway, and then there's another.
So right up to the driveway, right?
Yeah.
So then you're talking about having a break here and putting two handicap there?
Well,
Is that what somebody was saying?
I think the handicap or the accident.
You had said something about a break.
right, you know how like when the sidewalk, it goes down so people can feel.
Oh.
It's a break in the curve.
Yeah,
Okay.
Given for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a cut curve, so people
That's,
can
yeah, that's what's
use
designed.
These two
Yeah.
spots.
anything with wheels.
So for the minutes, 2 handicap spots. shall be
Well, we
created by
haven't
the-
decided anything. We're just,
Okay,
don't write anything tonight.
okay.
We're having the conversation. Just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Can I be the devil's advocate?
Absolutely.
I know this is not popular, but I just want to remind everybody that we can't think of a particular business. Businesses come and go. We need to think about what's best for the village as a whole and people that need to park on the street, because would we do this for other businesses? And I know that's not a popular thing, but we need to think about that as well.
You're talking about which
You are
side of the street?
100% right,
Because would we have a handicap space on this street? Yes.
but we're also a small community
I know,
that tries to work together.
because we, just to caution us, because I know that there's other people who have wanted parking solely, and I'm not saying it's
And
solely for their
we
clients.
took one away. So,
Well, you're still losing 3.
Here you're looking, I think you're losing 2 or 3 here. Yeah.
So there's 5 original ones.
So with this, would Eric have to go out there and grind off the yellow and restripe it?
no, we would make them do that.
Well, but you wouldn't because the loading and unloading is still gonna be yellow. And are the curbs yellow for handicap or not?
You'd have to paint them blue, that'd be the best way to get over the yellow, instead of grinding it off. At least if I was tasked to do that, I would just paint them blue. I know we don't have any other curves in the village blue.
Yeah,
But
we don't
to
have
get,
any of our handicap painted blue, do we?
none of the curves, no.
Yeah.
Some municipalities, you'll see that blue. We do not currently right now. But to get around that yellow, since it is all
Right.
striped yellow already. Just to paint them blue, so there's less confusion.
Yeah, so they
with
aren't
the
like-
handicap.
Mhm.
For my staff, time wise and the machine rental, we're probably a couple $1,000s already in, because the machine to grind those off was over $1,500 for that day. So just kind of keep that in mind too, and how much more you want staff to go forward with this project as well.
0. Is
I
my
mean,
answer.
Chris, if you know, I think you said that you were amenable to,
Yeah, and
Funding this.
I appreciate Julie's comment on this, you know, this is for the village, that's why Ellie's here, we've had discussions about, this is for parking for the village and it's taking away, so. Obviously, we're close to it, so we're talking about it, but this isn't just for us, and you're right, we should have been, present at other meetings to advocate for that. But it is about health, safety and stuff, we've had conversations, Chris, we hired actually Robbie Lee, Jared Schmidt to discuss with Chris, best, you know, proposals here, because I know those things aren't in the budget, we wanna make sure we're not just making, random comments, we're seeking out the experts to get resolution. But yes, we would, go ahead and do that paint, if blue is what you wanted to see,
Okay,
and then, handicap, chair in the middle, we would do that.
any hope of a motion?
Well, I'm not
Yeah, and
finished discussing, I don't.
To recap,
What are you,
I don't know, I'd like to know, how that, can you see in your maps, where will 5 spots bring it on the? How much room will we have?
at the intersection?
right here,
Well-
you're gonna have, how long is the
Yeah, so it
parking?
used
How
to be
how long is the
this
parking?
length.
You're
Gonna be 3, 4, 5.
Yep,
right?
yep.
20
These
feet?
would still be gone.
So you'd still have 5 open, right? 5 times 20 is 100 feet.
Yeah, it'd be it'd be just, about the front of the building, the west edge of the building.
Yes,
Everything west of the building would be open.
yeah, including where Jody's car is currently parked.
Again, once we can be seen from the highway, we can control the intersections, getting
Yeah.
down to the highway.
Yeah, and you can't be seen from the highway behind shop anyway, Chris, but still, you got the 20 feet. and you
No,
got-
but I have room,
and the
without
issue
parking there, I
congestion
have
on the
room to
way.
force people out of the way.
No, I got you, no, I'm truly not arguing, so you got. Is that enough? Got. 100 feet?
Again, I feel a little conflicted, right? I understand. Like Denise said, we, in this village, we have a history, and we need to work together, right? And this is a big improvement, it is a step back from where we are today, but truth be told, it isn't working. What they did is not working, and it's not their fault, it's the public's fault. Right, they're not paying attention.
Right. Well, we're not doing it, honestly. I think we're trying to help the business, we're trying to help the village, we're certainly trying to help those folks. They're unfortunate enough to have to, to utilize a handicap space and, help you guys. So,
Well-
and as you said, this could easily, not easily, but really not so easily, be in place for a couple of years before there's no parking, because then we have a better alternative. I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, the time,
Who knows?
some fire street and stuff, but.
Yeah.
Part of me says, okay, can we compromise, we put one handicap on the shop side and put one handicap on the other side?
Well, I was just gonna say. Not exactly the same thing, but I think I'd be more amenable to one. And.
But one on either side instead of 2 on one side.
Right, because if it's not for CHOP and it's for the village, then you could say that, okay, we're giving CHOP, there's now one on each corner.
And then you could have the one. In front, the first one by Glow.
Could be handicaps.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because getting in and out of a handicap spot with a large vehicle is difficult, so it being the last spot is just another opportunity for an ease in and out for
Right, do you ever
Wheelchair
see,
capable
I've never seen them stacked.
yeah, well, because you can't
Hard to
really
parallel
parallel park one of those really wide vans.
Well, it does give them, I mean, certainly, north from Mill Road and 42, there's plenty of places to go and there's lots of,
Well, it
parking
kind of
there.
mirrors 57, right? Because 57 has one on the chop side and one
42.
on the, or 42, sorry. The chop side and one on the
Yeah.
confectionery side as well.
So that would be a good
So,
compromise, I think.
I'll recap what I see there. I see one handicap spot. First spot west of the loading and unloading zone.
Mhm.
The loading and unloading zone is going to convert to available parking after 5 PM or whatever time.
Or we just leave the sign that's there that everybody parks there anyway.
They're
Right,
parking there
or we're
anyway.
not gonna go ahead and take it.
Yeah.
Or we're not gonna put it. So they're gonna have those 3 plus and we're gonna put a handicap on both sides.
So for the fire trucks, is there not a width concern for that spot?
Yeah, yes, it is narrow, we negotiated, out of 1,000 times up and down the road, about every other year, somebody takes a meter, either a fire truck or an ambulance, takes a meter, we've taken a couple, they've taken a couple. It's that narrow. You know, and some of it depends on, are we meeting a wide vehicle? Is, you know, how wide vehicles are parked in the spots, there's, you know. 99 out of 100 days, it's fine, and then on the 100th day, the cars line up, and you've got two wide vehicles meeting and two wide vehicles parked.
A mirror is a easy fix.
Yeah.
Compared to a light.
Right, yeah, and it's, you know, we eat it, and it's customer service, we say to get it fixed, and, you know, this is what it is.
May I ask? What if we took away the first one next to Glow and had the two handicap next to Chop? That way you don't have that side by side trying to drive through. Like you've got one car on one side, one car on the other. What if we took away that, because then the two handicap there wouldn't, like, you would still be able to fit through. I mean, I don't know.
I understand what you're saying, we maintain the width, we move the parking to the other side,
Right,
right?
just two handicap.
Right, and so one of the conversations that we had internally before it really came up to the village was, do we ask for no parking on the Chop side or on the Glow side, right? And everybody, oh, the Glow side, because we started to talk about, right? Because if you take away the parking on the Glow side, all you're doing is creating a turn lane. And backed up, it's no different than the issue you're having on the other side, right? It's gonna be plugged with people trying to turn right, people trying to turn left, and we haven't gained any space. What we need is that Chop side to be open so we can force people to pull into the opening. As we meet them, we can force them into the wide parking spot so we can get to the intersection. Once we control the intersection, we may not be able to get into the intersection, but if we can control it, then everything on our right, everything in the Mill Road side can clear out so we can get out. Right?
Have we ever considered about having not a traffic light, but some kind of emergency light when you guys need to come out there
Yeah.
to that
Yes,
intersection?
we have talked about it, and the village has typically been, just generically, the village has been kind of anti flashing light on the curb on the highway. Right, we paid for all that money to bury everything, clean it all up, and now we're gonna put flashing lights. Yes, we have had those
I mean,
conversations.
I remember having conversations about traffic lights and not wanting that, but I don't remember specifically having that conversation, and maybe that's a conversation that we should revisit.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. If
That would-
one corner, all corners it has to be on, what
It would just have to be, you wouldn't want it, you would only want to do the highway and not do Mill Road.
Usually it hangs over.
Usually it hangs over, you know. Maybe we could put it on the side and have it bright enough, but you would want to be able to stop the highway, so, Mill Road is clear.
right,
So what would happen is, as the ambulance or the fire truck came around the corner down there, there's a light on the top of the truck that hits the sensor.
Yeah.
That changes into yellow and then to red, traffic on the highway stops. Mill Road dumps out, and then you,
But it probably needs to hang over that
that's
intersection.
ideal, but again, you're kind of,
But otherwise, it's gonna have to be a pretty big, pretty tall.
yeah. But those are fairly expensive systems.
yeah.
We're not doing that for $5,000 to $10,000. You're talking like $3,000 to $5,000 per vehicle to equip the vehicle with the transmitters. But it gets pricey in a hurry, you know, and again, if you look at it, it would be great, but is it worth it? Again, it's 90 days a year from 11 o'clock till 11 o'clock in the morning till 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Cost benefit doesn't. No disrespect to them, it's a lot cheaper to just take away parking spot. And just being perfectly, honest. You know, and if and when the village puts parking into the old fire station spot, then a lot of this problem goes away because there's a lot of parking right there.
I think the only thing that doesn't address is close access for handicapped individuals and businesses.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to maintain handicap parking on Mill Road.
Yeah.
No matter what we do, even if we make all of Mill Road no parking for the old fire station, the highway. There's going to have to be some handicap parking, and at that point, maybe they're offset a little bit, so we don't have a bottleneck truck point. Things like that could be done pretty.
Okay, so,
So now now Eric left, is he coming back?
He's not, he's not, I can talk about that later.
okay, so the last thing that was on the table, I think, until I understand, until Caitlin spoke, was to have one on both sides, correct? Handicapped on both sides.
Right, the first one on the north side, a mill in front of Glow,
Yep.
and then the other one behind, next to Chops entry, behind the loading, unloading zone.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean then? What is that gonna, so if Chris takes care of whatever is appropriate for the painting, whatever, for the one right next to Chop, what's now? What does Parks have to do in front of Glow?
I don't think there's anything that has to be thrown
Except
out
just
there.
put the
Put the
circle
decal
with
in there,
the,
right,
I would think they probably want to make it match whatever Chris is doing, so they'd have to get, I mean, I would think you'd want the blue curving.
yeah, if they've got, if they're gonna do one, if we've got the paint for one, we can do the other.
Yeah. What'd you say, Chris?
I think that's a good idea anywhere, blue curve.
I agree, and I think that's one way to make it very noticeable is to have the blue curve. I think if you're doing it on one side, you have to do it on the other side. If you have two handicap stalls on both sides, I think they should match.
okay. But because we're not trying to cover up any yellow paint or anything else like that, the one that the guys take care of will be much easier.
If they have that blue paint.
Right, have they installed handicaps before? Do they have the,
I'm not sure if they have the stencil or not, but I think
Okay.
they touched up other ones.
They do, you,
Yeah. They do them in the public parking.
they do?
lots.
All right, then that's good, okay. So they stencil and then blue curb on the north side, okay.
And I'll make that motion that you wrote, Janelle.
I'm glad you did, Janelle, because
Okay, let's see. Okay, this may be not right, but we'll see. Okay, that one handicapped parking spot that is stenciled blue and has blue curb markings will be created in the first parking stall west of the loading and unloading zone on the south side of Mill Road. Further, one handicap parking spot will be created on the north side of Mill Road by Glow. Is that right?
North side, I would, north side of Mill,
Furthest west.
immediately, wouldn't it be immediately east of
Yeah.
the
the driveway
access
for
to
Glow,
2340?
right?
Okay,
Yes.
so wait a
Yeah.
minute. Okay, so one handicap parking spot will be created by, is that what you want, by
Um,
that address?
There would be one handicap parking stall on the north side of Mill Road, immediately east of the access to 34.
Okay, hold on a
340.
second. Okay, one handicap parking, blue and his curb are created in a, okay, I'm sorry, what was that again, Julie?
North side of Mill Road, first stall east of the access to 2340.
First
Road.
stall east of the access to what
Yes.
is it?
2340 Mill Road.
Okay,
I don't think it pays some reference it by Glow or something like that.
Okay.
'cause when
Yeah,
they
just the
charge-
address is smart, yeah.
So moved.
okay, can I read this once more then? Okay. One handicap parking spot that is stenciled blue and has blue curb markings will be created on the north side of Mill Road. That stall shall be the first stall east of the access to 2340 Mill Road. Further, the first parking stall west of the loading and unloading zone on the south side of Mill Road shall be marked in similar fashion. Is that right?
And that
Door hotel.
Chris or Chop, who's
Chop, I beg your
Okay.
pardon, Chop,
Chop will,
assume. all-
pay for that or assume responsibility for the new
responsibility
markings.
For the expenses, yeah.
Okay,
And that's what Bill managed.
so that was Denise. And who seconded it?
I second it.
Did you still have something you want?
And that's exactly what I have.
So I have
All
a
in
question.
favor? Sorry,
Okay,
you
so-
wanna wait? Sorry.
Yeah, I want you to wait, so, Denise, earlier you had said something about additional no parking sign from there to the corner, did you still want that?
I think that should be a separate motion. And, but then Chris had said, you know, they want that traffic that's going east to be able to pull into those spaces. We can't really put that there. So, you know, if we had them right next to the curb, I mean, I'm trying to figure out for July and August, how we try to keep them open, because people don't read.
Put a cone at the curb in each of those spots each day. Or put them there and leave them there so you feel safe, if anybody, maybe no.
Last time I had cones out, they were stolen.
They were like,
Depends, if you use a big one and it's heavy, our
I
experience is
did
they
use
don't
a
move
big
them.
one and it was heavy.
Well, we started using big heavy ones for concerts and they didn't move them because they were too heavy to move.
I know Eric was really, considerate when he was putting the signs along the road there. He was trying not to block the view, Chop's view, when they're out on the patio. So that may be why they're not seeing them as well.
Maybe the little ones, they'll just run over while they're parking.
Maybe we put the signs actually closer to the actual curb.
I mean, because you don't actually, to get out of the way, you don't actually have to pull all the way in next to the curb. So if there was something, you know, a
yeah,
couple,
Apple Lane.
yeah. So, did we vote on that yet?
No.
No. We can test it, see what happens. If that doesn't work, we'll try something else.
Okay, well, I want to wrap this up and then go back to the,
Okay, so all
Okay,
in
so
favor? on the
This is
first-
your motion for about the parking spots.
no, we've heard it, it's good to know.
Okay, but I mean, that's what you're voting on now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Correct, but we haven't,
you haven't voted on that one yet.
right,
Okay.
okay, all in favor?
Uh,
Aye.
So do we just recommend to Eric and his crew that he figure out something to address this issue? Fly it past you, Julie, if it takes a while. I don't know if he really needs to fly it past us. Obviously, it has to be something that's can't be walked off with, but that is going to do the job and clear the intersection for
Sure. So if you can try no parkage signage or,
cones or
Cones or
what,
whatever.
do some, see what's out there, what might work.
on the west side, or the
Okay.
south side,
Do we have consensus on that?
but we don't need a vote, right?
Okay.
Okay, next up is, I think it's consideration of the flower bed maintenance.
So Eric had to leave, his daughter, has an event. And unfortunately.
He has to be there. That's okay.
So I did talk to Eric about the forward bed maintenance, so just a little, the history I'm aware of. Is when Sharon Dorshing came to talk to the Parks Committee last year, Parks Committee agreed to put $1,500 into the budget. To have Joy from Jerry's Flowers come out and do the beds. And Eric wasn't aware of it. What happened this year was he went out and he put mulch in the beds, and then he found out later that, hey, Joy had done some work in the beds. Is my understanding. And he's like, well, nobody told me that Joy was doing any work, and he had a good point. He's like, you know, if volunteers are arranging subcontractors, he should really know about that. So that's one thing we have to keep in mind moving
Well,
forward
but
here.
I think in light of losing a DPW, transitioning communication,
Yeah, there's a lot of issues that go on there. So I
So
guess.
it can't be planted because of the mulch.
well, some of it's not. First of all, when Joy talked to me about it, she said it was really bad mulch. It's not mulch that you wanna actually use in flower beds. It's probably fine for the pathway down to the beach where we have all those hydrangeas, because there's not flowers, those are large shrubs.
Right.
She said it was too thick. She was worried about it retaining too much moisture, rotting, the hibiscus that we have in there. And also too thick that, the allium and other things that she had planted won't be able to push through it. So negative impacts on staff morale, so it was a glitch. I think we just need to remove the mulch. Period. Sorry. There was not communication between the DPW and Eric. I'm not in control of that.
I do think, when I talked to Eric, Eric said, you know, if we want to have somebody who just does the beds, he said. He actually welcomes that. He's like, you know, if you have somebody that's what they do. My understanding though is that Joy may not want to do that, as like every year she comes out and does the beds.
Right, I think it was trying to get, well, right, because Joy retired from
Yeah,
her
there's no way
business.
Joy's gonna be doing the beds or.
And so I understand, you know, if Joy doesn't want to do it next year, the following year, or
Sure.
whatever. And I understand why the Parks Department, I mean, I've been pulling my teeth for 10 years trying to solve this problem. And never seems to get solved unless I'm out there planting the flowers myself,
Yeah.
like I've done.
I think that. I think that there has to be somebody who's contracted. They do it every year. That's just the way it is. Because one of the things is when your staff continually changes. You know, they're doing different things, or they're trying to save money. If there's no money for the mulch, like, I know the guys thought they were doing good by taking the mulch they had. We're gonna say, you know, because they're always worried about money, and put it on the beds, but. The beds are a showpiece, so if that's the direction we wanna go, maybe we should just contract for that every year. It is an added expense. But that's just something I think we have to determine if it's high enough priority to
Right,
pay the
well,
extra money.
it's the post office, it's right next to the beach.
That's what
The
I was gonna
marina,
ask. So the
the
beds
marina
are the
can,
post office, the beach, what else?
Would be ours.
Yours?
Well, we have a flower bed.
That's Flower Pot Angels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna-
down
I'll
at the
do that.
marina, we'd have to talk to, the marina manager about the raised beds there.
These are just beds, not pots.
Because I know staff didn't plant any annuals there last year after the list was created and given to them.
So it's first off at the beach and marina, not the stuff around the restroom. Okay,
Is it just the post office, just the post office beds right along Bay Shore Drive, not the hydrangea ones?
Correct.
okay,
And then the marine, so it's just two, really.
Right.
beach.
Isn't there one by the village hall?
Oh, the village hall. Thank
Okay,
you,
you're
Jerry.
right, you're right,
The two
you're
at the
right.
village hall.
Yeah,
So it'd be the village hall, the
Post
marina,
office.
if they want, and then post office on Bay Shore Drive. And village hall, again, well, we really don't have it all the way around.
No,
just along
it's
Bay Shore Drive.
just on Bay Shore Drive.
you said beach, did you mean beach?
No, I was talking about the path down to the beach where the hydrangeas were. That mulch is appropriate because those
Yeah.
are shrubs,
Yeah, okay.
not,
All right,
not annuals or perennials.
so Denise, when you do the beds, or if we were to contract out the beds. Before the mulch goes on, what did you do? Or what did you
That we
expect to
didn't
be
put
done?
mulch down.
Okay, no mulch, and so what you expected to be done was, I mean, was there topsoil, was it fertilized, or what, it was just planting, right?
When I just planted,
Okay,
and when Jim Hirschmiller was still with the village, he watered.
okay,
He was the water guy, he was the fertilizer guy.
okay,
That was his role. And, we told him he was fertilizing too much because if you remember that one year, those pink petunias, that's all you saw was a seed.
Yeah, it was-
Not that they weren't beautiful, but you didn't
Well,
see
petunias
another
don't
flower.
I mean, petunias, So, do we work with Jerry's on the flowers or whoever the contractor is on the flowers that we pick?
I have a list of annuals. Now, we've worked with Door Landscape to get the perennials in there.
Yep.
And so that we would have a map. And if Joy planted allium and other things, I don't know if she was given the map from Door Landscape. So now we know where the alliums are planted.
Okay,
And that was all handled, I think, by Sharon, because Eric didn't even know Joy was in there.
The Sharon wouldn't have had access to the Door Landscape map. So
Okay.
we need to follow up. We need to get all those maps from their proposals for each of those 3 locations. If Joy has planted anything, she can add to it. So we will always know the space that there is for putting in annuals, because annuals should be the least amount of what we have in there. It's just it's the all around color all summer long.
Yeah.
Where as other things bloom. Instead of spending so much money on annuals as we have in the past,
Yeah.
trying to minimize that.
yeah,
moving
first, I mean,
forward.
if we've got perennials, sure, okay. And then, I'm sorry, watering though, we're gonna have to have somebody,
That's, should be our parks. Department.
okay, and Fertz,
Fertilizer, I think, should be who we contract with.
Reading,
I think.
The more plants we get in there, the less weeding that should have to be done. That's up in the air. Probably contractor because the guys don't like it.
didn't we have a problem last year with weeding where last year or the year before, we had a contractor come in, they did stuff, but they did no weed. I think we contracted with them to do weeding, but they didn't do the weeding, and then the guys ended up weeding.
That sounds familiar.
So this
Yeah,
isn't,
like
this has
two-
nothing to do with lawns and tree green or anything like that, this has to do with beds, okay?
Right. Mhm.
Well, whoever takes care of the bed needs to do the weeding, I mean, that's it, you know, it's, if you're going there anyway, you're gonna fertilize and you're gonna plant and, you know. It just seems logical. I think.
Can I recap, just keep my brain straight here?
Sure.
Okay, so the guys would remove the mulch from the post office bed parallel to Bay Shore Drive, the marina and the village hall.
Yeah.
And then we would get the maps from Door Landscape. Have Joy add her plantings on there, so we have a map going forward of how things are supposed to be planted every year and with what. And then we will have a contractor who will actually go in there, plant them, fertilize them, weed them. Our guys will water them.
Mhm. Right. You know, we have a couple of services that come in and work with businesses in the village. There's someone that goes to, the confectionery. There's someone that, you know, so, right, so, and, maiden name was City, I forget which one, anyway, then there's, well, Melanie, I think, anyway, as long as she's a block away, you know, we maybe should think about that. Cause she also knows what grows, that helps.
Well, and we have a list of annuals.
So,
I think I should try and get some prices on this before the next meeting, so we can add that into the budget.
okay,
Because maybe Joy did it for 1,500, maybe it's. 3,000, we don't know.
and this is separate from Flower Pot Angels, right?
All right,
Jerry?
But if Joy wants to, you know, once the guys remove the mulch and Joy can get in there and plant I mean, I think she's still good for this year.
I mean, do you want me to follow, I'm happy to follow up with Joy, I'm there every weekend. Unfortunately,
why don't you? I know Eric has had,
I have no
Said-
problem.
I think she's his neighbor, so he has talked to her quite a bit.
You know,
But just ask her.
I'm truly in there, I just keep going there. Oh, I'll ask her, okay, I'll ask her what's up.
And then you'll report back to me, Louise, so we.
Sure.
can-
Sure, can I give her
And
an
then,
idea? You
and
think
then
of
we
when
would
the,
need to know when the mulch is removed, so she.
right,
can
just give me
get
an
it
idea when, let me know when the mulch is removed, I can let her know, and then I can ask her, I can let her know going forward, we need a list of plantings, and if she, you know, what else she needs to do, right? Okay. Okay, Jerry, anything else? You, no green thumb here, you're contributing?
You know, I'm really big on flowers.
You're big on
So
flowers.
I would say that some irises might need to be added to get some extra color, but, you know, while we're transitioning between the annuals, so I think that's the one thing the post office is missing. Is it has no irises, and that's a good transition from the tulips and daffodils and early season stuff into the daylilies.
Okay,
But other than that, I'm sure Denise has a great annual list.
Well, I think I went over it with this committee.
I remember
You
several
did give
times.
me a list, last year that we gave,
I remember, because it was a couple different meetings, it was, remember, it was discussed. Or maybe that was the restroom. All right,
I can find
do
out.
we need a vote on anything?
No.
No, not at this.
Okay. Next up is weed control services and application locations. I did go up to the old schoolhouse. It looks, the guys did a great job of weeding and stuff like that. At what, if they could, well, first of all, do we know if True Green has been there yet to do any kind of weed and feed?
I know that Eric so that right
Okay.
after our meeting that week, they went up there, they cleaned it up,
They
and
did.
then he contacted
Okay,
the county.
okay, because there's a bunch of weeds still on the side that's closer to 42, you know?
They
Okay.
might not even come back until they do
Yeah.
their next round. of-
Okay, it's all dandelions and stuff, and then there's a bunch of brush there, which they won't touch. So this is just old brush from those, the evergreens and stuff that are there.
Okay.
That's, I mean, it's, True Green isn't gonna do that, that would need to be removed. This is off the subject, but I'm also wondering, because both of those restrooms are closed. I'm wondering, I know the men's room was, we have to fix that door. What if we opened the ladies' room and just made it unisex?
You know, I did talk to Eric about this last week when we went up there, that there should at least be one open. Um,
I think it's legal to make it unisex, it's just a,
Well, and what's the person who's working in the schoolhouse? What bathroom are they
it's,
using?
So there's
we aren't
nobody in
opening
there
it for
anymore.
the season.
Oh, you're not open there.
No, it's
yet.
all downtown this year to see what, that's where the traffic is. Foot traffic and everything else. Yeah.
it's it's closed other than the kiosk.
I mean, you know, Ellie can certainly speak to it, Ellie and Aaron, but
We're testing it.
Okay.
So
Probably not a bad idea.
we're testing it out, yeah, so we can do a recap or what's later, and so we got all the 24-hour kind of information, we've added extra brochures up to at the kiosk up there. And then actually made a couple extra like public bathroom signs.
Eric is back on again if you need him for
Yes,
anything.
okay, good.
okay. But if we could make that
Those
one
are- those are-
before, until they fix the door to the men's room, make it
Eric,
unisex.
if you wanna,
I think that- is that
unmute
legal?
yourself, that's fine.
We begin questions on
I
what
think we
that.
just have to
those
change
bathrooms
the
are open.
I think, I don't know if it's legal or not, but I mean, it's just a regular little bathroom.
Eric?
Eric, can you unmute yourself, please? Okay,
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Eric, did, True Green come up to do the lawn yet up by Gateway Park, or is it on a schedule?
What was that again? I'm sorry, my son is talking to me. Can you repeat that, Julie?
Or did True Green come and, spray Gateway Park, or are they on the schedule?
I believe they're planning to go and spray it. They may have already. They were back downtown. It's hard to see what they spray for because they do multiple fertilizer and weed killer. I know they were down at Waterfront and Marina Park doing them both. So I would anticipate that Gateway downtown as well.
You told them to do Gateway, right?
Correct. I had a conversation with them when you guys had met there earlier in the season. They had not gotten there yet to do the weed control.
Okay. And then one more question, Eric. Do you have an update on when that door will be fixed at Gateway?
Yes, I finally was able to get a hold of somebody. I believe next week we will be on the schedule for them to come up and repair. Both doors were actually vandalized. Now due to the light traffic up there, I've just kept them locked. We can, if the committee wants, we could open the women's. It was lightly vandalized, but it still was. So I've been hopefully trying to get someone up there to fix it, but as of now, I just haven't been able to get anybody.
Okay.
So we were thinking about having the women's room be unisex. What do you think about that?
Eric?
I don't have a sign to list it off as unisex right now. I could certainly order one, but it might, it might come as soon as I get the door fixed.
Okay, well, whichever works.
I would say with the light amount of traffic that's up there, especially with that information center not being staffed this year, I really haven't seen too many people trying to utilize the facility. I would just advise waiting until we get the doors fixed.
Okay, yeah, if we can get it, because people will start picnicking up there and they do stop us, to pick up stuff. And do we, I'll be honest, I had not looked at Scandia Road and 42 in terms of weeds and stuff. Is anybody else?
Yes, that's why I wanted it on here. Because it is just all dandelions. And it doesn't get mowed as often as regular parkland, which is fine. Shouldn't have to be, but it looks horrendous.
It's just the west side of 42.
It's right next to Vernon's.
Well, it's right there.
So Denise, are you talking on the parking lot property where the parking lot is? Scandia and 42.
It's right where Roberto's is.
Yeah.
What village property is there though? Scandia?
It's our right of way.
Oh, I don't think we do any right of ways. I think we
Well,
just.
they were cutting a whole bunch of trees on Scandia.
So this is a little bit further east on Scandia Road.
Here's the gas station.
Yep. Over there. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Because there's some green outlet boxes there.
Mhm.
I thought this was village property. Because there's a hydrant there.
I can check, I mean, it'd be right of way.
Which is ours.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think because I don't think we spray any, but I think that's a question for Megan. Eric, do you know would that be Megan's department that's maintaining like around the fire hydrants and stuff? Or is that your crew?
You can unmute yourself, Eric.
I can check in with them and,
You'll have to unmute yourself.
that's okay. We'll check and get weed control. I think it's. If we're doing it.
Fire hydrant maintenance is gonna be around Megan's area.
I'll talk to Megan.
Right, but I'm pretty sure the guys
Have them,
cut the
okay.
grass. I think they just go in and weed eat it, because you can't really even get a mower in around the hydrant and the electrical boxes
okay.
and whatever. But it just always looks really, really bad.
Okay. We'll address that. And then,
Post office?
Sabrina, post office?
Where?
I don't know if that,
It might have just been the post office plantings. Was it about True Green there?
okay. That could be my error, because this is
Okay.
the item I requested.
Okay.
All right.
I don't think we need a motion on that. Rather, I'll work with staff to make sure that gets addressed.
Okay, item number 6 is the policy for right of way.
Okay, so, we've talked about, doing at the last meeting, beginning or thinking about doing a right of way policy. I did look around, I looked at what we had, I just put something together, for you, just give you some guidance to see what you wanna do with it. So, it's a starting point.
And thank you for your time. I was thinking something more like we would, something, a much bigger project, meaning that we would take our official roadmap and determine which roads where would have criteria on them, whether, you know, if it's a scenic, you know, and we don't do anything, or whether it's a residential area, just kind of all would depend. I mean, that's a really big project.
Yeah,
Louise was talking about how do we come up with a couple of sentences and just deal with it and make it simple? And because one of the other things that I thought about is that, that no matter, depending upon where a property is located in the village, you want to make sure that X amount of feet off the pavement, you know, it doesn't matter kind of where per se the right of way is, but if you wanted a scenic road and the right of way goes in 15 feet, but maybe you're comfortable with from the edge of the pavement 10 feet in, that always has to be clear. And then we don't care about the other 5, whether it's in the right of way or not. So things of that nature that were a little bit more definitive on the look that you want for any given area.
okay. So, I don't wanna say through a planning exercise, but basically trying to define scenic corridors, areas where we're concerned maybe about wildlife coming out. I know there's areas, some of the more shaded areas. When I was talking to Eric, one of the concerns is if you don't keep like even the grass back, that's kind of wet. Yeah, that is a much bigger project, Denise, you are right. I think it's a good project. I mean, I would love to have scenic byways throughout the, not byways, but scenic routes throughout the village. You know, those are ones where you wanna have walking trails and stuff like that typically.
But I drove down Fieldcrest and I did not see devastation and nothing made me want to cry. And I asked we had a joint meeting between the Marina Committee and the Village Board shortly after that last Parks meeting. And I reported under comments and correspondence what I had seen, and it took me a while to even figure out exactly where it was because I expected clear cutting. That did not happen, in my opinion. And I asked everybody else, certainly on the Parks Committee at that meeting, to go drive by and see what they thought. Kurt Harf, another board member, said that he had driven by after that meeting, and he also did not think that it was bad. I mean, when I talked about creating a policy, I thought something, you know, was implied that our village staff really erred, and in my opinion, they did not at all. And to a certain degree, I felt that they were thrown under the bus a little bit. And I don't want to compound that at all. So I don't know if you drove by, Jerry, to look at it, what your interpretation was or whatever, but that's why I talked about the policy. I am not concerned on what they did. I think moving forward, it might be wise of us to create a policy anyway, whatever that policy might be. But I really think something more encompassing, just like we're doing the tree inventory of the village, you know, on the property that the village owns. Yeah, it's a bigger thing. Yeah, it's going to take time. But if we, you know, just slowly work on it periodically, and you take one section of the village or one road at a time, and everybody drives down it the week before we talk about it and, you know, we'll eventually get it done.
Yeah.
It's not something I think we're gonna hammer out in a couple of months. But
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, because I think you would probably establish criteria for, I don't know, 4 or 5 different types of roads, whether it's higher density or it's a scenic corridor or,
Yeah.
you know, it could be even,
And to a certain degree, it could all be eventually, when we get to that point, you know, on GIS as an overlay. You know, a corridor overlay on what goes on. So I think it just,
well, it also sets expectations, which is fair.
Right.
You know, and I too drove by and I knew which house it was. I deliberately didn't, I don't remember addresses. I'm not good at that. So I didn't remember the address. And so I knew that there had been some brushing or cutting back. I didn't think it was devastating. I don't own the house, you know, I don't, so it's all in the eyes of the beholder. But setting expectations is always a good thing. This won't be quick, but
Right.
still. But in particular, maybe you start with scenic corridors because those are the ones that where people would be some devastated or notice it the most. For instance, like if you drive up the windy road, you know, or something like that. I mean, that was people. So anyway,
Would it be easier, Julie, to base it on speed limit? I don't know if we have enough differentiation in the village on speed limits or no,
I don't think so really, because a lot of our, I mean.
or
when you
just
look-
all residential neighborhoods like 25, and so there wouldn't be.
Yeah, because you know, I look at some of them back like on Forest and back in that area, very wooded, scenic, pretty roads. I think those are a lot different than, hate to say it, but like Cherrywood and Highland, you know, they're more. The ones back on Forest in that area, they're more,
they're
They're older.
larger lots,
But they're
first of
older.
all, they have a really heavy tree canopy.
in Cherrywood, and those are more urbanized, I think, lots.
Smaller lots, side, yeah.
and they're
close together.
I mean, so. You're right, that you could, I guess you could make that distinction, but you're right, most, I mean.
There
You
wouldn't be
know,
enough.
Bay Shore Estates is
differentiation.
25 miles an hour and so is, you know, and now Country Lane's 35 miles an hour. That's very different than, you know, another 35 miles an hour. But I think it just kind of trying to figure out 4 different types, I think might help.
So,
I didn't know we were taking a tree inventory. I think it's a great idea.
yeah, we got a grant for that,
Oh, good.
Just on village properties.
yeah.
Okay. So how do we start that?
Well, I don't think we start it now.
Right. No, I know, but how do you
Because-
just? So you
And
just,
until we get a finance director, I think we're gonna put a lot of things
I
on
agree.
in Janelle's tickler file.
Yeah,
I do think that could be part of the planning process, you know, or even the outdoor rec planning process, which is almost wrapped up, but to define, like, in your comprehensive plan, a lot of times there's a transportation plan chapter. In Sister Bay, we do not have a transportation plan. We rely on that chapter for our plan, which I disagree with, but that's how we do it. Because it is a lot of work for just a small bit, right? But that could identify those roads as either being scenic, nature, urbanized, stuff like that, that we could go on. It'll take a while based on what's on the hopper, but we'll get there.
Okay.
Well, and if we have that clearly defined and we had a rotation schedule or something, I'm sure a lot of homeowners would be very willing to take it upon themselves to do it instead of, you know, parks employee.
Well,
and-
there is some stuff the property owner is supposed to be doing anyway. You know, that they don't, and you tend to see it in those more scenic areas is where you tend to see the property owners doing less of the maintenance, and it's because the expectation is to have more of a woody feel and look to it, which I think is fair. So,
What, I scrolled down a little farther, I have one other comment. So moving, until we have time to create that policy. My suggestion would be to you, Julie, is that if Parks plans, before we have the policy, if they feel that a road needs to be done, and granted, I know this is done, you know, late fall, winter, early spring, whatever, when they have a little bit more time on their hands, that if they would give, if we don't have the policy in place, they notified this committee and we talked about what they think needs to be done where, and we have a conversation.
Yeah, because if in this case, they brought up, hey, you know, if there's a complaint about this, we could have all driven it and seen and gone, okay, let's be
Yeah.
reasonable about what we're doing.
Right, what we're doing.
You
And I
know,
think it's also gonna save staff time.
Well, because they may look at it and go, we have to do all this.
Right,
And we say, well, our recommendation is you only have to do
Do
this
this.
much,
yeah.
and then it's a reasonable
Mhm.
compromise.
yeah, I mean, maybe a road cutting plan of these are the roads we intend to get to this year if there is time. Like a one-time thing that comes into the committee, but because every month they're not gonna be able to come back. I
Oh,
mean,
no, of
it's
course.
like,
No,
that's good,
no,
we're going out.
no.
No, but they probably have a list of things they didn't get to this time at least, so.
Right,
that would
right.
Probably be in the. top
So
of
I
the list
don't,
for
you
that
know, if
issue.
it's one road, if it's 20 roads, it just come and
Yeah.
talk to us, so then we can.
Yeah.
Have a conversation, go take a ride and see what we think.
Agenda item number 6 is the Expression Universal Swing at Waterfront Park.
Oh,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I have to go back.
Sure.
Julie, in the code of ordinances, on page 67. Starting on line 34, terrace area mowing. The last part of that sentence, but I'll read the whole thing. For purposes of this section, the terrace area shall be as defined as that area between the curb and the sidewalk or bikeway, and where no sidewalk or bikeway exists, that area between the street pavement and the right-of-way property line. I don't know that the right-of-way / property line is the appropriate wording there, because that could leave some unintended space,
Well,
the way that I read it.
the right of way line is, okay, so if it's a 60-foot wide road, the right of way line is 30 feet from the center line.
Right,
Usually, not always, it's your property line. So,
but we found out that so wasn't true when we redid Highway 42, and granted, the highway was all cleaned up, but there are all kinds of side roads that.
yeah, there's a lot of areas where the property line is actually the center line.
Right.
What that should say is probably right of way or property line, whichever is furthest from the center line of the
So
road.
I
or
just,
something.
you know.
Yeah.
It caught me as I was reading it, just wanted to bring it to your attention. Whether you do something with it or not is up to you.
I think when we do amendments to that chapter, like there's some little ones we just kind of hang on to.
Right.
Cause you're not gonna go through all that work for
Right.
that, but just when we get to that one, add it.
Okay.
I think that's a good question, you're right. There was something else too in one of these I was looking at, but I'm like, yeah, put your battle on it, you know.
So this is the current, the current code, right?
Yep, that's what's in there right now.
Okay. Okay, anything else on this item? Okay, item number 6, is the Expression Universal Swing at Waterfront Park. I asked that this be put in, and so some history here, and you'll see pictures. In 2019, we installed an Expression swing. You see the photograph and what we paid for it. This was donated by an anonymous donor, and you can see when we got it. And we actually, I'm sorry, I think we bought it in 19 and it was installed in 20, something like that. And so it broke. And why did it break? It broke because in the years that since we've installed it, you know, it's a swing. As you look at it, you can see that a child can sit in it And then the parent or an older friend, sibling, something can swing with them. So it's really meant for that kind of use. And so time and time again, we would, and they'd face each other. So we would walk by and see two 12-year-olds having a great time, you know, and so was it used properly? A lot of the times, yeah. Was it not used properly? Some of the time, yeah, so it broke. And so it's been replaced, but it wasn't replaced with this swing. And so I thought we should talk about it. First of all, because it was donated. And also, I don't know if it was irreparably damaged. And if it was, that's one thing. If it wasn't and we have it somewhere, if Waterfront Park isn't the best place to put it because of the wear and tear, I mean, it's kids have fun on it and their parents don't say, you're really not supposed to do that, but we could put it out at the and people, maybe we could let people know, I don't know if they would, but we could put it at the playground out of the sports complex if we're worried that it's just gonna get. So I don't know the history of it. I'm not sure.
So what was damaged on it? So that obviously made it almost 4 years.
So this is what I'm told.
Eric would like to say something.
Oh,
Julie.
Eric,
Oh, sure, Eric, thanks.
Okay, you wanna unmute yourself again, Eric?
if Eric can't,
Can you unmute yourself, Eric?
There it goes. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
So the swing was, the bearings that hang on the frame were damaged. But after doing some research, that swing should have never been permitted to be put up on that, that support set. It is not, that support set isn't built to handle that heavy duty of a swing. That's why we put the smaller swing on there for the support, so it could handle that support. There was some jury rigging that went in to get that swing up and functioning.
We
Because
bought
after
an
I had looked, after I had looked for replacement parts and talking to the original manufacturer, he's like, the reason why you can't put the OEM parts on there is because that swing is not meant to be hung from that type of structure. So then that decision was made to put something that is made to be hung from that type of structure. So it was a safety decision to switch out the swing.
That's weird because we bought an extra frame for what it was hanging from. We didn't, because we had to extend it. There wasn't room. So we had to buy an extra. Anyway, so, okay.
Eric, do you know anything about that? Was there, the extra, if they bought an extra arm for it, do you know, was that put up there? Is that what you're saying was not built for it?
No, it's
Or,
not meant to hang from the support bar. So I believe the support bar is around a 2-inch piece of pipe that extends from end to end. The actual support needs to be around 3 inches. That's why the OEM clamps weren't fitting around there. And when I had talked to the initial manufacturer of that swing, he was all confused and I was all confused because he sent me out hardware that wasn't familiar on that swing. So what they did is that they rigged hardware to fit on there, which caused premature wear on the swing on that hardware because it's not meant to be on there. And then he's like, well, that swing's not even meant to be up on that kind of structure anyways. It's meant to be on this. It's meant to fit this pipe, which the hardware supports because that hardware is bigger, beefier. So I just made the decision and talking to the old DPW that, this swing can't go up for a safety reason. We're not going to jury rig it back up. We're going to put a swing that's meant to be up there, for safety reasons. Now we still have that swing. It's back at cold stores. I've been holding on to it, for reasons. If there is, new park development that goes in, we can put up the proper infrastructure to support that swing in the future and use it.
Do they have, the company, because I did work with them, because I'm the one that bought it. And so the company that you spoke with, because we bought it from Game Time. But the company, with the company that you, so whoever you spoke with, and this is a long time ago, do they have a frame for it that would work if it stood, sorry, if it was installed separately, so it stands separate from the rest of the other swing? Do they have that, and how much is it?
I have no idea. I'd have to look into that.
Well, let's do that, so we can, because that's the only way we're gonna be able to use it anyway, right?
Well, you just need a 3-inch pipe, not a 2-inch.
Right, which means we need a separate frame for this thing, because the other pipe is, you know.
I don't understand why, when you bought the swing, it wouldn't have.
No idea. But the swing didn't come with it, no, because then we went back and forth with them on, wait a second, this is what we currently have, this is the frame for what we currently have.
But an extra pipe was added just for
Yeah.
it.
Right,
It seems like we need add an extra pipe just for it, that's the extra right size.
right, but I don't know why they would not have said, no, the specs are wrong for that, that's not gonna, it's weird. Okay. It
Didn't you-
never came up.
Do you remember, and I don't know if I dreamt this or not, I was telling Eric, that's what I do.
I know.
I thought that last year, when we did our walking tour, maybe it was the year before, we said, well, let's keep that swing for the all-inclusive playground at the sports complex.
We can keep, I mean, I'm glad we still have it, it should be in an all, it's the only,
Did I dream that?
I mean, it should,
It's not specific, it's so general,
No, it's
Julie,
not.
that it could have been said and I wouldn't specifically remember. I remember talking about having a better entry to
Yeah.
the swing.
Yep, and then they put down like a mat.
Right.
And then I
yeah, we
remember.
did put a mat down, right?
Well, Eric he can explore what it takes to do it correctly
Yeah,
and repair it if it needs repairs. But we do want it back at Waterfront Park, right? That's our goal.
ideally, because
Okay.
people aren't gonna find it necessarily, it's not right now,
I agree.
at the
So,
sports complex.
and then he can,
But you know what, maybe if it's separate, because I remember when we were talking about this, that we wanted it hanging with the other swings.
Right, so they
To
don't
be
feel like they're,
truly
Yeah.
inclusive
Exactly.
and not this separate
You're right.
swing or
so they don't
whatever.
feel like
Well,
it's.
maybe it fit off the other side or
But
something.
there's probably no way to keep people from abusing anything.
Yeah.
You know, but if it was separate, would we have better luck with it lasting longer and not being abused
Well,
by?
it sounds like the reason it wore out was because it was installed on a really sized pipe causing premature wear,
Right.
not from
From,
abuse.
okay. I was just
Absolutely,
asking the
it certainly
question.
contributed to it, yeah.
That
just a
swing
little
is
bit.
definitely abused.
From Eric?
He said the swing's a
That
dead.
swing is definitely abused.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we were there all the time, we saw it and watched parents watch their children.
I mean, if you want it on the same structure, or close to it, it might be an issue because that's kind of a tight corridor with the way the mats run into that playground right there.
There's a lot of space.
We could extend the playground out more, possibly put them right next to each other.
I think that's the ask though, is to look at what options they
Yeah.
have.
Well, first of all, find out what the frame is, how much that costs and what that would be to,
And then what the footprint would look like. I know for younger kids or anybody who has difficulty with swings, having it right there. You know,
That's why we got it.
little Ones, it's,
we work with
it was a
Gibraltar.
big hit.
Well, then we work with Gibraltar, because Gibraltar had just installed one, and we talked to them. Right, so, yeah, if we could just see what that frame cost initially. Go from there.
I was gonna say real quickly, off topic. The park across from my daughter, they just replaced it as a completely all-inclusive playground and it's. You know, the kids are using it. As well as.
All of them.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, well, I think Bailey's is all inclusive, right?
Yep, Bailey's is all inclusive, I was a part of.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Jenna, can you mute Eric?
next up is, Village Barn Storage.
Yeah, so we just have to give our nod. I don't even know why
That's
we're
it.
talking about this. It just seems so
I
ridiculous.
know, Eric asked, and I'm like, we better ask.
Well, we talked about it on our walk around when we were out there or somewhere, or
We
maybe it
talked
was in
about
the
cleaning
meeting.
it up, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a yes. Janitorial service position is item number 6K, like Kathy.
I'm just gonna go ahead and if everybody wants to discuss, but I'm just gonna make a motion at this point in time. I make a motion that, we deny this request at this time. I feel that, we do not have the money at this time.
This was, yeah, I think we talked about this at personnel. Cause Dave's he has a job out there and he's not finding anybody for, what he's looking for at the marina. And this would be certainly because partially the hourly wage and also because of that, it's part-time. But this would be additional funding that we don't have for 24, right?
Right, it would have, the marina has their half covered, we would have to cover that half of parks.
Do you have an opinion either way?
I think I'm aligned with Denise with the budget challenges and everything, like, I mean, even says there's some things that aren't being done as often as we would like. But it's still a like, not a necessity.
Yeah.
I think down the road, it does make sense, especially if we get a full-time bathroom over at Pebble Beach, that we have, someone more janitorially oriented for bathroom cleaning and cleaning of equipment and that kind of stuff, but.
What we talked about was outsourcing it. And that could be a 2025 discussion. And also we also talked about possibly partnering with, is this one of the ones we talked about possibly partnering with another municipality?
I was supposed to reach out, and I did, reach out to Gibraltar to see what they do, if they contract it out or how they handle it. This was the one to partner with the marina though.
Oh, the marina, so they would
Yeah.
pay for that, okay. Okay.
Can I go off on a tangent?
Yeah.
Extended discussion.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Herein lies the crux that we are faced with and will be continued to face with. We grow and we grow and we grow and we add, and we need staff. And then we need to outsource, and then we need to contract, and this, that, and whatever. And there's never going to be enough money to do it all.
Mhm.
And so I think that we really need to be cognizant on all the things that we want to keep adding.
I couldn't agree more, absolutely. I mean, maintenance needs to be done, so we do
And
we do more with less, and so the guys will continue to clean, and if, they'll clean, and when they're cleaning, they're not doing something else. I get it, yeah.
Julie, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna make this argument, because I don't know that I've made it in front of the two of you, maybe I had, but Julie has heard it plenty of times. And it's just like our previous DPW wanted to start doing so much in-house. And I have been against that from the beginning, but that hasn't, it's just my opinion. And that hasn't stopped it from happening. When we are doing maintenance and oil changes and other things that we can have somebody else do because that is what they do. But now we're talking about outsourcing to vacuum and clean bathrooms and other things. When, if we weren't trying to do so much in-house, our department would have more time to do the things that only they should be doing or can do, or we want them to do.
The jack of all trades, master of none argument.
So let me just comment on that, if you don't mind, okay? Eric and I actually had this discussion earlier, where Eric disagrees with the previous leadership's position of doing everything in-house. He believes that there's just some things you don't like concrete. He's like, we're not masons, we shouldn't be doing it. Yes, he understands, you know, Dan wanted to bring it in-house and then learn because it's hard to get masons, but some stuff you just can't or shouldn't be doing. So he does not believe in doing it all in-house. And we talked about things to contract out and things of that nature. But this committee has to realize, you guys do keep, and I'm gonna say this in the nicest way, you guys do keep adding more and more work on their plate every month we meet. It's always, we want this, now we want this, now we want this. There is a lot of, I don't wanna say micromanagement, but there is a lot of control from the committee, which changes their workday or adds work to their schedule all the time. But the main reason why I feel that this position is needed is we get people complaining all the time. This building is a really good one, so is the village hall. The toilets aren't clean enough. They didn't pick up the garbage in the village hall. They didn't wipe down the counter. No, because they're busy doing everything else. So at some point, something has to give, right? If deep cleaning and cleanliness is what you want, and most communities do it. You have somebody go through once a year, wash your windows, vacuum your blinds, scrub the chairs. We don't do that because we can't. We don't have the ability to do that. That's what a janitor does, stuff like that. So.
You know, I'd love to see, I mean, it's like anything, I'd love to see data that would show that, you know, what makes more sense. Cause data, you know, trumps everything. So it makes more sense at whatever we're paying them per hour or salaried or whatever versus bringing somebody, so that is, I think, the only way to, and I'm not suggesting we necessarily go into this big long study about it, but that's really.
I agree with you. I'm a data person, you know.
But there's no data that I don't think that exists that would tell us either way, you know, I'm open to either one, but.
Well, there's data, there, you know, we know how much guys are spending on certain facilities, but do we have data that shows when the last time these chairs were scrubbed? No. You know, I mean, it's not to that level. But
Well, we're getting new chairs next year, so we won't have to scrub them, right, Janelle?
Yeah.
But an even bigger issue, honestly, is because, I mean, the janitorial services are one thing, but, you know, we just looked at a parks plan and there's a lot being done in-house that's gonna, and in order to do it, we're spending a lot of money to buy equipment to do it. So, and I don't know if we ever looked at data that proves that that's a good move.
Even if we didn't like the scissor lift, you know, the in-floor lift.
To
that's-
$17,000.
Right.
Mhm.
I wouldn't, even if we didn't do it now, I would never build that building without one for the future.
Okay. I just don't, there's no data anywhere that, you know, we just think this. So I just want to point that
No.
out that, you know,
They have looked at before what they were spending on maintenance, et cetera. The thing
Good.
is,
because to me, that isn't too hard to pull up, right?
yeah, and that's a couple years ago, Luis, because it was looking at, are you better off? Some of that was looked at when we looked at getting on a rotation for your fleet, right?
Oh,
So-
this was another argument Julie and I had.
Yeah,
Discussion.
Well,
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, fleet maintenance is a big deal. That's why I asked him, how many lawnmowers do we have?
Because I
They have to be-
believe in rotating your vehicles before the warranty expires, because in the long run, it saves you money and you can turn, or you can, they give you a higher value for it, right? Versus hanging on to it 20 years paid off, doing all this work on it, and when it comes time to turn it in, it's junk. That's, so, yeah. I think I won that one. I'm not sure. But,
Well, it's in the CIP, so I think you won that one.
yeah, so, okay, so, well, then Dave is just gonna have to, we just have to accept some things do not get clean or done, and,
Well, they won't get clean on as frequently as we're gonna basis, I assume.
and we also have to,
I mean, if
try to
somebody
not
wants
add
to
more to their plate.
do, you know, do some work, propose it for parks budget for next year, you know, that's all fine, but my answer is no to everything that we haven't budgeted money for that pops up in
Oh,
this
I'm
year.
sorry, okay, I understand. You're saying next year, but not this year.
Yeah, that's why my motion
I
said
understand.
at this time, but if you
Yeah.
propose it at budget and if
Yeah.
it makes it through the budget analysis to the
I
board,
understand, okay,
then
I
that's,
misunderstood.
yeah.
So there is,
Oh, and I need
that
to interrupt
motion.
because,
They have to get
the
in here?
noise in the hallway said they have a meeting in here at 6.
Okay. Somebody's got in here at 6. Oh, you wouldn't know, right? That's
Yeah,
fine.
it is, yeah.
Okay.
They have a training session, I think it's CPR.
I was not about that, or I went to.
Okay.
Let's
good.
type the budget.
So we have to go through the budget, all right. Well, let's finish this agenda item.
So
okay?
Denise had a motion. I
Yeah.
don't think it got a second.
It did
because
not.
We're
It did not.
doing the discussion. After the discussion, I second the motion.
At this time.
Yes, but no, she said it the first time.
She said it the
Yeah.
first time, yeah. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
That's fine. So you can reach out to Dave? Or we didn't really
Yeah.
talk to Dave about it at all, did we?
I did, I met with him after and I just gave him an update where personnel was at on that, but I'll reach out to him tomorrow and let him know.
So I don't know if you're wanting us to go to a deep dive, Julie, on the budget. I think it could be because I'm gonna reiterate what I have said multiple times tonight. And that is, I am looking at a 0% increase for the entire, not just parks, for the entire village budget. Now, that might be a lofty goal because all we'll actually have to play with is net new construction. If we want to keep everything, and if there's increases in insurance and wages and everything, all that has to come from somewhere. And I don't know where, but I guess from someone who sits on finance, I would be asking all department heads to get out a pencil and an eraser.
So what I was, the director, or what I want to do is just a big broad overview right now. And say, we know that contracted services go up, we know electrical goes up, we know gas goes up. So traditionally, the village says just increase that by 3% for those standard things. So I would hope we're okay with that. And then I had asked Eric to go through and he has started doing this and say, okay, we had 20,000 in here last year because it was a special project. If we're not doing it, show me where that goes down, you know? So if a project is done, we don't come up with a new one, you know, we're taking it out to get that back down there. The 3%, and like I said, Eric did say they did 3% in his budget previously. There's some things in here, Eric, and I disagree how they were, assigned. So, for example, the Christmas tree light, there was 25,000 put in there. Well, really, that should have been in more like contracted services or repair. So some stuff just has to be shoved around to be correctly budgeted, right?
Yeah.
So you'll see some on that, but, and I asked Eric, is there anything you need this year? And, you know, so he's coming up with that list and there was nothing, you know, big ticket item other than what we saw that was covered as part of the building project. So it was, that's the direction staff is looking at it, but I want to know, is there something that the committee wants added in there? Because the committee has added stuff throughout the year, and if we could think ahead, so we don't have to do that. For example, 2 years in a row, we added signs that were never budgeted, which meant that came out of something else that was budgeted.
So what I'd like to see is, this is great, so it gives the budget by, this is all categories, am I right,
Yes,
for parks?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I don't see is year-to-date, 2024, and I don't see last year, 2023, so I have no frame of reference, I'm looking
Yeah.
at it in a vacuum.
I know
Well,
the,
that if you go to the budget the actual budget on the website, it'll show.
Well,
all
the
of
budget that was, the budget that was attached only shows a projected 2023. It doesn't show actual.
And I know we emailed you specifically, Louise, we didn't email it to anybody else, but you had asked for year-to-date, so that was emailed to you separately.
Year to date, we all need. I mean, because it would be, so for instance. you
I
know,
don't care about year to date.
It gets a little hard with some stuff like this, because in spring, you're doing certain projects. and-
understand. I
But,
got you. I
so it's
got
a
it.
little deceiving with a parks, but
It is, but it's nice to look at. The other piece of it too is, looking at the 2024 budget for the village. And, I'm looking at, projected 2023, projected 12/23/23, how, 12/31/23, how it ended. And what the budget was. And, for the fund balance, and they're identical. So I have to assume that that looks weird. But also, when I look at like expenditures, general government, it was projected that we were gonna end 12/31/23 at 680,000. The budget was 749. Yet the budget for 2024 was 799. So I don't understand that. So that's why I'd like to see how we actually ended up 23. And where we are year to date 24, because it looks like in some cases we were over, but there were other cases where we were way under. But the 2024 budget was still planned higher, even though we ended 23 less than the 23 budget. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, all that money then just went into, there could have been adjustments that were made, and then it would have gone into undesignated balance fund.
project you couldn't have completed, so you had to redo it.
Okay, but
Um,
why would we plan the general government expenditures almost $200,000 more than we ended up in 2023? And I realize.
Because we had single projects that we were paying for.
And see, in government accounting, you maintain your general fund,
Yeah,
so any money that's left over, like with your budget,
yeah,
that was different. With government accounting, if there's money left over, that money has to go into the general fund,
okay.
so.
But but then what I'm looking at more is how we budgeted for 24. So anyway, if we could, so what was attached for this packet, where it says 12/31/23 projected, that's not actual, is it?
No, because so that's the actual budget, so that's what you're voting on in October, so you're doing
No, no.
projections at.
This is year end, 12/31/23 projected.
When.
Is that
October-
how it actually ended 23?
No, because
That's what was
just the projection.
projected in the committee projected. We're gonna spend so much money by the end of the year.
Okay, so do we have an actual number?
Those were the ones that Heidi emailed to you, but
Okay, but
we had,
nobody
if
else
the
has
committee
it.
is interested, we would get them that.
How do you plan for 24 without knowing what you spent last year?
Because we work off of the budget.
I know. But wouldn't you want to see what you spent last year? I mean, I'm talking itemized by line item.
You do get
Nobody
that
does
during the
that.
budget process.
Well, that's what we're starting, aren't we?
We are starting
Yeah.
that right now, right?
But you're not to that point yet.
I gotcha.
Right now, it's just kind of spitballing ideas.
So for instance, so Eric isn't privy to any of that right now.
Eric sees all that, so, and that's where staff is adjusting it. They're like, okay, we spent this much by the end of the year. We don't need that thing. We don't need this
We don't
thing.
need that brand new, zero turn mower this year, so.
Yep, and so they know to reduce it, or we didn't get around to spending it, but we still need it. What was left over went back in the general fund, but we still do need
So
that.
what he
so-
sees is an itemized budget.
Yes, he has access to his budget and he can go in there and.
We all
what's
see an
spent.
itemized budget when we start actually.
Okay, so when do we see that?
Finance person.
Okay,
This is the best we have right now for you. We could go in and print out every
Well, that's what I'm
account
frustrated by,
and-
because if we're supposed to start doing this, how do we start doing it if we don't have the tools to do it?
Yeah, and that's why at this point, we're spitballing, like, are there big projects this committee wants to see? Do you support the staff's thing that we're just gonna add 3% to all of them to cover the
No,
gas and
no,
everything?
No,
No,
no, I wanna dial that back to 0.
I mean, I don't know, it's.
Well, the
it's just
budget
a-
overall could be less than what it was, but I'm just saying, you have to figure inflation, right? You're gonna go through the same amount of gas in your mower, actually, we'll go through more now, because now we picked up Logger Crest. So we now have to go out there and spend a couple hours doing that, and weed control on that, mowing on that, so you have to understand, you now have added gas, added chem lawn.
I know, and that's where then we prioritize projects and push them back either in the CIP or what department heads are asking for.
So you wanna get where we're just maintaining what we have and not doing anything new.
Not necessarily,
Possibly.
not necessarily. And then that'll be the give and take at finance. The argument at finance.
Okay. Okay, no
But
big
but
projects.
to
out
say
there.
that a 3, it's not acceptable to me, and I might as well start here and let you know that as the one of 3 people on finance, that please don't tell people to incorporate a 3% increase. Because you don't want us whacking your projects, your requests, so come in.
Okay, my understanding is that is how Sister Bay has traditionally done their budget, is they,
That is correct, absolutely. Tasha proposed something with a 3% increase. Yes, we
Okay.
started that many, many years ago. Today, this world, this
Might have to
year
change.
is a different story.
and then, just look at the CIP, we'll have to talk about that next time. And then,
In the CIP, I noticed that the ice rink is out to 2027.
yeah,
And I
because this
thought
was,
we talked about the 500,000 and 25, or is that to be discussed?
so this was what was put in October, and I think that. And then at the budget meeting, didn't we add the 1 I can't remember at what point we added it, but it was added. And then after the budget was done, we talked about moving that up. So that is something that we
To
wanna
October, so
change.
that would happen this year, that's what I wondered. Okay,
So that's
okay.
something we'd wanna change,
Okay,
so.
Or talk about.
yeah.
Talk about maybe the, all-inclusive playground is something to talk about. I think we do need to talk about the Pebble Beach, the stuff we wanted to do out there, which we can still try and do grants for, but we still have some costs.
I
for
wonder if
engineering.
maybe not the CIP, we should start with the CIP.
Start with the CIP.
Because maybe there's some things that we can push.
Okay.
Let's have that conversation. If there isn't, but because I think the CIP is going to be much easier to massage or manipulate.
Okay, and then,
And because once you get down to wages, insurance, there's not a whole lot that, you know,
you
you
can really
can do
control.
with that. So maybe it's better we start with CIP.
So you got this document emailed to you.
Yeah.
For the next meeting, I just want to give you a dumbed down 1-sheet CIP to work off of. And if you want the detail, go back to this, but I don't think. I mean, this is a lot, I think, to. In a meeting when you're just talking about a CIP, I think what you're really looking at is the meat and potatoes. We want this much money on this, this is when we want to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
And that's what we focus.
Uh-huh,
The
yeah, it's
page.
170 pages.
Prioritize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you do have this summary as well of your,
Yeah.
bigger things. I just put that together real quick. It's something to think about, you know?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting, actually. To look at it and look at.
Well, we have about 2 minutes.
Just look at like the top line. Interesting that,
I think it's interesting.
well,
and
the
I'm
ice
not-
rink would look way out of whack to me at 45.5.
I'm not
We
saying
never
this is
used
right
it.
or wrong, but I think it's interesting, the flower pots, and I love the flower pots. But I was surprised that we spend 3 times as much as that than we do on the dog park.
I'd be happy if flower pots went away.
I
not
just
me.
think that's a lot of money for,
Yep.
you know, we do have volunteer groups that wanna help out with that. So the bank did. I don't know what they did this year, but,
Well, the Flood Angels do volunteer to do that, they don't get paid.
right,
I know, but it still costs us.
It costs materials.
that's $1,000 Christmas party, so
Yeah, $1,000 Christmas party.
it does
I
add
didn't go
up.
to that.
I didn't get invited.
I went that, I
They
think it was
didn't have enough
canceled.
people, so they can't, it was
Yeah,
that
it was
job, they
canceled.
didn't have
We didn't
enough,
have
they
it.
canceled it.
I don't remember seeing an invite.
Yeah, no, they didn't have it. Yeah, there was no party.
That was.
All right, so, wait, let's go back to this. Are there any questions about, the staff report?
Yeah, when I talked to you, Julie, about the complaints I received about the stone pillars, and you said, I think you and Eric were gonna go do a walk around. Or whatever, did you,
Eric and I went out there, they were pretty much done. And I see what. When you're walking down the sidewalk, it's very level, straight, even. I know if you stand in certain locations, like if you're in the gazebo and you look, they kind of look like they're not even, but they were squared to the sidewalk.
okay,
The man that was, John, the guy who did it, he said he received hundreds of compliments on them. He had people taking pictures next to him. I
well,
think,
some of the people taking pictures
I
are the
know.
ones showing me how
know.
crooked they were.
but I think you have, yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a more critical eye, I think, because we're so ingrained in the park, this committee. But overall, I think people are very happy with them, but they were squared to the sidewalk. And I think it gives, and you had a grade change in some of those,
Yeah, that's the problem.
which gives it
Yeah,
a
they're
little
on different
optical
heights.
illusion.
I know, but that's where you dig out the ground and put your footing,
There-
even though it's a very small footing, at the same height so that they are equal. I am not a mason. I know this.
Yeah, you know, I didn't, to me, when I saw the ones that, I didn't think they were off that much to bother me.
Okay, but the point is,
Yeah.
is that if the village is signing off on work, that it's kind of masonry 101, I feel. As a layperson, if I know this,
I know what you're saying, because I know there's one, he couldn't go as deep because of the sprinklers that were in there and stuff, and the roots and stuff. But I know what you're saying, if you want them level, so one gets a deeper foundation. I know.
or higher,
Say what?
whatever it is that you work out. Yeah.
Do we
That
want
was
to
my-
talk about July 1 as the first, as the next meeting, Monday, July 1st? Does that work for everybody?
No, we're moving that to the following Monday, the 8th.
Are we? I
don't know.
don't
Are we?
know.
Not good for 4th of July.
And we
I mean,
could
the
just
8th
do
might not be any better either, because when it's in the middle of the week, it's a nightmare.
When it's in the middle of the actual 4th, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not ideal.
but I would ask for it to be the 8th.
Yeah, I mean,
instead of
luckily
the
this year it's
4th.
Thursday, so it's pretty great, actually. We'll have a long weekend.
The
Um,
one thing I wanted to point out before you get done with the staff reports, do you want me to hire these people again for the shredding appliance recycling day in spring next year? Because we almost have to do it now.
I have a big problem. Oh, did I not get to that? I probably closed my computer.
No,
I did the math. When did shredding become $5,600? And we had 66 participants, and I did the math, and it was like $85, $87 per person.
That's the issue, that's why
That is
it was
on,
way too expensive.
on
wait a minute, was it
acceptable.
just shredding that was 5,600? Hold on.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay. Oh, there it
because
is.
you wanted that, and we had gotten
It
a
was
price quote on it.
4,200,
That's what
but
he-
then
I never
there's-
knew the
there's
price tag.
surcharges.
I don't even know if that's what it cost us 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Last year, I know they didn't show up, which was probably a good thing, but I am not in favor of spending that kind of money
to me, it seemed awfully
for
high.
66 people.
Have you gotten a quote from anybody else for, what do we have, 5,000 pounds?
Well, we had, there is nobody else, that's the issue. The only thing that we could do was this. Not even, Sunshine House. And they did it for much, much cheaper. That was less than $1,000.
I mean, B3 recyclers, absolutely.
Yeah,
I never wanna not have them.
yeah. So I'll
Is there a
call
reason
that,
we didn't ask Sunshine House this year?
yeah, Denise wanted these.
Well, because they didn't shred on site.
Oh.
That was the thing. They were taking your documents that you wanted shredded, transporting them down to Sturgeon Bay, doing something else with them there.
Yeah.
But I did not know, no one told me it was $5,600.
Because well, I thought I gave you guys an estimate, but it doesn't matter. What they do, they charge an upfront charge, plus you have to pay from the thing that they leave from the
You're
pier
paying
and
travel.
get back.
Right, because there's
Travel
fuel
to the pier?
surcharge of $630.
Yeah.
It doesn't even cost $630 of fuel, let alone a surcharge.
So
All right, let's check out Sunshine House.
should I call Sunshine House and see if they'd be willing to do it next year?
Yeah.
We'll have to have a conversation because I did not bring documents that time because they were not being shredded on site.
Okay, yeah, and I had called all over and this and Sunshine House were the only.
Or
ones
maybe
at
we
the
just
time.
don't do it and businesses. just
Why
have
don't you
to-
get a quote from Sunshine House and let us
Okay.
know what it is?
I'll do that.
Great.
Or get an industrial one that's in a building somewhere that people can access on Saturdays and go in there. I know it's gonna be a mess, but they go in there and they shred their documents. Did you ever see those big, heavy metal ones?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
You can go in there and shred your own documents. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think offering that as a service is phenomenal. I've never lived anywhere. I'm like, do you really have to do that? Cause that is an extra service. But if you are, you might be able to get by with just commercial grade shredder thing.
well, let's look into that too.
And
See how much a
then,
commercial grade shredder would
Yep.
cost, okay?
are you okay with the July 8th meeting instead of July 1st?
I think so.
Okay,
Should work better.
and Julie, you're okay with that?
I don't have any meetings that day.
Yep, I don't have any. Okay, great.
That gives
Okay,
us more time to get started.
okay. And matter to be placed on a future agenda or referred to a committee official or employee?
Highway 57 trail update and, Highway 57 speed study update. Those are the two things.
I can tell you them right now, but we can put it on the agenda.
That's fine.
Waiting on the DOT, waiting on the DOT.
Okay, well then if you're waiting on the DOT, don't put it on the agenda, just until we have it. unless we have an
Eric
answer.
got the signs up.
I'll make a
the no
motion
parking
to
sign.
adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Jerry,
Okey-dokey.
you had wanted the engineering study, you saw that, we have that, so,
For all the sand.
yeah.
Yeah, I saw it's your paper copy only. I'll just have to swing by sometime. Is it at the village?
Yeah, it's in my office,
Okay.
Janelle found it, it's 2 documents.